What's up, y'all? How's everyone going? I went to quit Discord and I accidentally quit Streamlabs and that tanked the stream. So sorry about that. What a fun start to the night. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Glad to have y'all. Let me kill the music here. Yeah, sorry. I went to click the quit Discord and accidentally quit Streamlabs, and there's no warning. There should be a warning. It should say, "Hey, like, you sure you want to do that while you're live?" Nope. Just let me kill the stream. Hilarious. All right, folks. Welcome back. Tonight's question that if you could please put into Twitch chat because I didn't see them is: would you rather paint a wall with your face or your knees? An entire wall. What do you all think? So my odd self like actually tried it. Like I tried walking up to a wall and like, what? Alfred the dog, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. I really appreciate that. What? Thank you so much. I actually what? Thank you, Alfred. I appreciate that so much. I walked up to the wall and I like did like my forehead and then I tried my knees and I don't have a good enough range of motion in my hips for the paint a whole wall. So I think I'm going with my face, going with the forehead. I think that might be the easiest here. It'll be a little messy, but I think I could do it. Jersey Boss said, I hate this question. Anonymous, what? With the 5 gifted subs. Hey, appreciate you, whoever you are. Thank you. I feel like Anonymous, if you're the same person, I'm almost the beginning of every stream. I appreciate that. David, smash my face to the wall, more surface area. Thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. Welcome back, everyone. Hey, Liquid Words. Hey, thank you for the sub, the gifted sub. Appreciate that. So tonight's fun night. We got a lot of stuff to get through. We're going to start talking about how to network and kind of what are the expectations around networking for the remainder of the boot camp. It's actually going to be split up into 2 days. So tonight we're going to talk like high level, like what you're going to be doing. And then on Thursday, it's going to be a lot of examples, like example emails, example messages on LinkedIn, just so you have like boilerplate that you can use. Anonymous, hey, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. We're already on, what is that, a hype train already, geez. Welcome back, everyone. If you're new, you're going to need 2 things for tonight. You might need the slides. So if you do exclamation point slides, it'll give you the slides that we're going to use tonight. If you don't like them to auto advance as I move through them, you can remove that /live and have full control. We're going to use a lot of materials tonight that you might want. If you want the starter materials, like all the code that we're going to use, you can do exclamation point Discord in the chat. That'll get you access to the materials that we'll use. And then if you haven't checked in yet, go ahead and do exclamation point check in for me and retweet and like that tweet. Nasty, thank you for the hydration. Cheers to you. But as always, let's go ahead and start with some questions. And then after a few questions, we'll get into the meat and potatoes for tonight. I'm going to go to Liliana. All right. Questions. What about the old homework? Can it still be submitted? Yes. As I kind of keep saying, we're easing into it, right? We're coming into our 3rd week, technically, easing into it. All the homework still is open. So if you're still playing a little bit of catch up, get it in. Starting after the Thanksgiving break, we'll have all the homeworks will close at the end of class. So you'll have before class to submit, and then you'll have like our breaks to submit. And then after class, it closes. So we're still ramping up. If you still need to ramp up, that's okay. Get your stuff in. But no, we're going to slowly start to be a little bit more strict here. And in fact, I have a slide talking about turning it up towards the end of the networking stuff because we're going to turn it up. Alyssa, I want to be part of the hype train. Oh, I appreciate you. Thank you. Erica with the resume review. All right. Send me a message on Discord and send me your resume. That's the first one, I think. Office hours isn't mandatory. No, it's not mandatory. Will you miss some stuff? Maybe. We like to review a lot of the homeworks. Anonymous, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. I appreciate that. Wow. Thank you very much. Yeah, so office hours not mandatory. We cover a lot of fun stuff, answer a lot of fun questions. You can always watch them later on if you want to. But I'll use office hours to review like homework and to do homework solutions. And so if you ever want to see like full solutions to the homework, most of those will be covered during office hours. So you can just take a look at the solution files, watch the videos and those certain pieces if you want. But yeah, it was a fun time. Colleen with the stretch. All right. Let me go ahead and do that stretch real quick. 1 second. Not that kind of stream. Oh, yeah. Boom. Thank you very much. What is cracking when you stretch? That's a great question. The first thing is my wrists. So as I stand up, my wrist typically cracks. Remember I told you I burnt out my wrist. Like it's broken in more ways than one. Like I have a bone growth on one of my on like right here. It's like a bone is like missing now. It's a whole thing. Sheenan, thank you for the cheers. I appreciate that. So that's the first thing is I'm sitting up. You hear that, and then typically it's my back. Yeah, we're still trying to develop, you know, the catchphrases. I think "oh yeah" is the good one for when I'm stretching. Dominoes is still my go-to, like anyone. Oh, Rossi, thank you for the cheers. If my back cracked like that, I'd be on the floor. Oh, look at this hype train emote. That's cool. I haven't seen that one before. Hype book. Choo choo hype book. Jenner, thank you for the hydration. Cheers to you. Let's get a few more questions in here, and then we're going to get started, folks. Just letting folks get here, letting folks get in on time. If you want to play along with bingo, I highly recommend bingo, exclamation point bingo. Open it up. Have some fun as we go along for the rest of today. Jersey Boss Race. And now that I know how channel points work after 6 classes, I'm hoarding them. There you go. How you doing? You get rest. Alyssa, I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. I think I have 2 weeks left in the boot camp I teach during the day, Resilient Coders. And on Friday, we had 4 individuals get offers from Amazon. So we're still 2 weeks away from graduating. And we had 4 individuals get full offers from Amazon. That's mind blowing. Like that's like the if I could dream something, that's what I dreamed. And so yeah, that was a really great weekend. Probably one of the best weekends I've ever had. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. Most of them did not have. I think one of them had a degree. The other 3 did not. 3 of them had never touched code before starting the boot camp. So in 18 weeks, they went from no degree and never touching code to a full offer at a FANG company, which is wild. Crumb Hustler, thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. And then the rest of the class, I would say about half of our cohort already has offers. It's probably a little more than half. Yeah, a little bit more than half already has offers. We still got 2 weeks to graduation. So that's been really cool to see. Over the weekend, more people got offers, like late Friday, like early Monday, more offers came in. Folks were kind of like negotiating and kind of picking between multiple offers, which was wild. And so it's kind of like the best of times. So I'm doing fantastic. Yeah. Right now, our cohort, we started with 20. And we're going to graduate 16. No, we started at 22. We're going to graduate 16. Our next cohort, we're taking 40. So our next cohort is going to be wild. We're going to have 30 folks from the Boston area and then 10 folks from my hometown, Philly. And so we're going to have 40 folks going through the next cohort. Kind of turning it up, folks, turning it up. Yeah, and for those that don't know, Resilient Coders is a free, nonprofit, stipended boot camp for students of color in the Boston and now Philadelphia area. We have folks that join us typically without a degree, and typically they've never touched code before. We put them through a 20-week boot camp that's completely free to them. They never pay a dime. They never pay us back anything. And we actually provide a stipend for them to go through the program. And so the really cool thing that I owe a great deal of thanks to y'all for, especially after Saturday's stream, which was wild, is that we're at the point where the donation, so all the donations, all the subs, all the cheering, that just goes to a donation to RC. And we're at the point now where we'll be able to fully fund one student's stipend for the entire program, which is like, what? That's so wild. So there's gonna be a student that goes through the program that y'all funded. And so that's mind blowing. I never believed that would happen. I never thought that would happen. And so super thankful to everyone. So yeah, good week. Can't complain. Cannot complain. Alrighty, folks. Let's talk about what we're going to cover today, and then we're going to get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is I want to cover. Hey, Alyssa, thank you for the cheers. Where's the PO box? That's actually a cool idea. I would love Christmas cards. That'd be fun. Let me look into that. So tonight we're going to talk about how to network. We're going to talk about the basics, just kind of things you should be thinking about. And then we're going to slowly put these into place. And then the goal is that after the Thanksgiving break, the expectation is that you're networking every week and you're building out your network of folks that when it comes time to start applying for jobs and opportunities, you have a solid network to lean on. We're going to be reviewing the CSS fundamentals like we have been, getting a little bit more box model practice in, talking a little bit more about floats. We're going to talk about responsiveness and go deeper on the topic that we hinted at last class. We're going to talk a little bit about Flexbox just to introduce it. And then we're going to move on to some homework. So this class is going to be a little bit more me talking and a little bit less kind of hands on keyboard, which I apologize for. I always like to get kind of more folks like actively doing, but there's just a lot of little topics that we have to cover. And it's a lot of me kind of like sharing info. So next class will be more hands-on, and this one will be a little bit more kind of us talking through some important stuff. Cool. A Hedwig said no class on Thanksgiving week, no class on Thursday. We're going to still squeak in a class on Tuesday because technically we're like a class off. Like we're a class off because we had like one class where we didn't meet because of the election. And so we're going to try and squeeze in that. So next Tuesday we'll have class, but the following Thursday we won't. So yeah. Cool. All right. So let's talk about networking, folks. Now, the goal and what I mentioned when we first started the program was that if you're going to go through the program and you're going to be in Touring and Hopper, there is an expectation of networking. And the networking is really so that you can secure a job in tech. I say it over and over again, but I really need it to sink in, and I really need it to sink in tonight. You don't just apply to jobs in tech. If you just click apply, you might as well print out your resume, crumple it up, and throw it in the trash can. It doesn't work. You'll hear of folks that will say, hey, I applied to 400 jobs. I'm just like, what do you mean you applied? Like, how did you apply to 400 jobs? What they meant is they went on a website that listed jobs and they just click, upload resume, click, upload resume, click, upload resume. And then they're like, Leon, I applied to 400 jobs. Why didn't I get any? I was like, because that doesn't work, right? It doesn't work, right? Does not work. And so to me, this is the biggest thing that's going to differentiate who gets an offer and who doesn't. It's the biggest thing, even in the bootcamp where we have such great outcomes, right? The one I teach during the day, our outcomes are phenomenal. that's the hard work of staff trying to generate these leads, right? And to network on the behalf of our students. And it's also our students that are networking their ass off from day one. So at RC, each of our students owe me 5 networked connections a week and 2 coffee chats. And that means by the end of a 20-week program, they have hundreds of folks that they now know and have formed a relationship with that could hopefully provide a referral to a company in their area. Okay. So the idea here would be you all are going to need to do this on your own. You're all coming from different areas. What the hell? Bleebly, thank you for the gifted 20 subs. What? Thank you. I appreciate that so much. Like that's wild. What is? Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. RC deserves it, they said. Hey, thank you. I really appreciate that. I really do. That means a lot. Cool. Hey. Whew. Coming in hot, folks. Y'all going wildin'. I appreciate y'all. Thank you. The idea being here that it's not just your skills that are going to get you this job. And this is the thing that folks don't normally talk about. Like, somebody's trying to sell you a course. Like, the course they should be selling you is like how to network. That should be the entire course. The entire course should be how to network. And then at the end of that course of how to network, they should like just tell you to go use the Odin project or free code camp. Pidgey, hey, thank you for the one gifted sub. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right. And so the idea should be like, the tech skills are great, but this right here, this is what gets you the job. Okay. Now, we're going to talk about some things that I've seen that have worked, some strategies. And I'm going to talk about some ways that if you're not a super extrovert, how you go about this. I'm going to talk about ways if you are a super extrovert, how you can go about this. So we're going to talk through some systems that have been helpful for folks to network. Today's kind of like big picture. And then Thursday, I'm going to share details. I'm going to share like, here's an example email. Here's an example tweet. Here's an example of how I would try to set up a coffee chat. Here's an example of how I would follow up. So this tonight, high level, Thursday, all the details. Cool. So for this program, I'm going to ask you to network with 3 individuals that are already in tech every week. That means 3 individuals that you did not know before and 3 individuals that are in tech. Now, what that means is that you're trying to build up folks. Medi, hey, I appreciate that. Thank you for the sub. You're trying to build up folks in your area, right, that can help you get a job. Now, if your area is not conducive to getting a tech job, this is the best time ever, like in the history of like networking, to network in an area that has more job opportunity, right? The idea being that right now in a global pandemic, all the things I'm going to tell you to do are meeting virtually. Normally, the biggest places that you're going to meet folks are in person, but right now, everything's virtual. So if you're in a spot that doesn't have a lot of job opportunity, network somewhere else. I was talking to somebody during my office hours on Monday. iJob. I don't know what your Twitch name is, but I was talking to them and we were talking about being in an area that was kind of close to 2 other tech hubs. So while they're not directly in a tech hub, they can network into 2 other areas that are close by. Right. So that's what you need to think about. You need to think about, all right, where can I find a tech job? And that's probably where I should set my base. Right. That's where I should look for opportunities that are close. Right. And so the idea is that you're going to find 3 folks in tech in that area and then 2 coffee chats. So 2 coffee chats are 2 other individuals that you're going to try and have a longer form conversation with. Okay. Now, how do you find these areas? There are plenty of websites where you can check and find like total number of jobs. So Indeed is a really popular one. Dice.com is another really popular one. Just go and think of like the bigger cities that are near you and type in software engineer, type in software developer, type in JavaScript, right? Type in like these keywords to see if there are opportunities. If there are, that should be your home base for your networking. But the goal is, and we'll talk more on Thursday on like how to like do all that. Like today I said it's like high level. On Thursday we'll get into the nitty gritty details, right? But the overall, you're trying to find 3 individuals just making a connection. Making a connection now just means like that you've reached out, you've connected with them, you've probably added them on LinkedIn, right? That's a connection. And then 2 more individuals that you have a longer conversation with. That's the goal. So not this week, not next week, but when we come back from Thanksgiving, for those that are in the US, you're going to turn on this dial and I'm going to ask you to make these 5 connections every single week. Cool. That's the goal. Jackie, I will give some examples of good LinkedIn so you can take a look at them. So that's the goal. That's what you're going to be working towards. So let's break down like how to like find these people and some of the like biggest places that you're going to find these connections through. Okay. Miriam, I'll get to how you're going to prove it in a minute. Cool. Here's how you should think about networking. Some people, when they hear the word networking, they're like, I'm going to add everyone that's ever been on LinkedIn ever. Right. And they just go on LinkedIn and they're like, right. And they're just scrolling. Right. They're just going wild on LinkedIn. That's not what you want to do. That's not the goal here. Okay. The goal here is to turn a stranger into a friend. That's the goal. All right. The idea is to turn a stranger into a friend. Okay. So when you meet these folks at a meetup, right? When you meet folks at a meetup, your goal is to turn them into a friend over time. Okay. And so when people go about networking, the shotgunning approach doesn't work. Like just going on LinkedIn and going wild, adding as many people as you can, doesn't work because those people don't know you. They're not going to refer you. They're not going to recommend you. They just don't know you. Okay. And so the idea is that a bunch of like a few quality connections is going to be way more impactful down the line than hundreds of folks that really just have no idea who you are. And so it's a slow process turning a stranger into an acquaintance, into a friend. And then once they're at that friend level or like that level where you know each other professionally, then they can turn into a referral. And then referrals return into coworkers. And so what do I mean? The best way to get a job in tech is to not apply, but to be referred. Meaning that when there's a job opening, somebody that knows that company or works at that company or knows somebody on the engineering team or knows that person in HR can say, have you met Bob? Right? Bob is the best person I've ever met. Let me grab Bob real quick. All right. They're going to say, hey, have you met Bob? Bob is my boy. We go way back. Met him at a meetup. Then we stayed in touch. We've gone to conferences together. Right. This is my guy. I see that you have an open JavaScript position. Right. You have an open JavaScript position. Bob is the candidate for that position. Luco. That's the candidate for your position. Right. And so you want somebody that's going to say, hey, I know this person. I think they might be a good fit for the role. It's not even that you're the best or the most wonderful. It's I think they might be a fit for the role, so you should give them a shot. And then their resume goes to the top of the pile. Okay? That's what you're looking for here. That's what you're looking for here, right? You're looking for somebody to say, hey, this person here might be a good fit for the role. And then that resume that normally would have been balled out and thrown into the trash now gets onto the right desk, right? Gets in front of the right person. So that's the goal. Now, most of the tech hubs aren't that big. Like if you're not in the Valley, like if you're in Boston, New York, Texas, Chicago, like any of these places that have an abundance of tech jobs, they're really not that big, right? They're not massive. And if you get to know like 100 folks, you're going to realize that from those 100 folks, you can get to most opportunities, right? You can get to most individuals, right? This isn't for remote yet. I'll talk about remote at the end, right? So this is for folks that can network in a local area. We'll talk about remote in a little bit. So the idea here is that you are picking an area to network into, and then you're going to start trying to turn some strangers into folks that might refer you. And the reason why this works is that most tech jobs have a referral bonus. Like a lot of them do. So a lot of companies say, hey, if you refer somebody, we'll give you X amount. I've seen referral bonuses from $1,000. I've seen referral bonuses up to like 20 grand, right? So if a company is willing to pay someone 20 grand per referral and you can't get a referral, something's fishy. Something's fishy, right? Something's fishy, right? And so that's how some people think about it. It's like, all right, if you can't get a referral and I'm paying somebody 20 grand per referral, there might be something a little sus, right? And so that's kind of how some of these like smaller tech hubs work, is that the referrals are really weighted highly. If somebody refers, like if somebody on the engineering team refers you, you go straight through typically one of the first rounds, right? Like a lot of times if you get referred, you're almost guaranteed like a behavioral interview. If you get referred, sometimes you might even skip the first round. And so these referrals are really important. Now, how do we get folks into the top of the funnel so that we can slowly turn them into an acquaintance, and then from an acquaintance into a friend that might make a referral? Cool. How to meet people. Somebody asked a really good question before we jump into the how to meet people. Somebody asked, how many rounds in a technical interview? There can be a lot. We'll have whole classes on how to interview, but a typical interview could be an application, a phone screen, a behavioral screen of some sort, like either a behavioral interview or a behavioral phone screen, a take home where you're working on a coding challenge that you've taken home, and an on-site. And an on-site can be anywhere from one interview to like 5 or 6 interviews across an entire day, and then an offer, right? Right. So that's a lot of process, like to go from an application, some sort of phone screen, behavioral, technical take home, technical on-site where you're doing like 1 to 5 interviews. That's a lot. So if you get referred, you can typically skip some of that. It's just how it works, right? So let's talk about how to meet some folks and start putting on the top of our funnel. Events. Events are some of the easiest ways to meet folks, to turn them from strangers into friends. Meetups used to be my jam before the pandemic. I would typically go to 1 to 2 meetups a week because they're normally pretty cool. You go, there's typically free pizza, there's free beer, somebody's going to talk about something cool, and you kind of just hang out. And what you'll notice is that if you start to go to a few of them, you start to recognize some of the same faces. And over time, it becomes kind of like familiar, right? You might not know who that person is, but you've seen them a couple of times now. And so when you introduce yourself, you kind of feel like you already know each other. Boom. That's an accelerated going from stranger to acquaintance, right? Just by going to these meetups. Now since the pandemic, they're all virtual. But a lot of the same stuff happens where a lot of the events will have like breakout sessions, or they'll even have like explicit networking sessions. And you'll start to notice some of the same folks going to them. And that's kind of how you can turn some initial strangers into acquaintances without literally doing anything. Just like showing up and them seeing your face gets that familiarity going, right? If you're looking for meetups, there's a couple places to start. Meetup.com is definitely the easiest to like use and to like find meetups that are still like happening virtually. So I typically would tell people to start on Meetup, but then you want to give yourself a good old Google, right? And you want to look for other like startup events, or you want to look for other like engineering events just through Google. And what eventually you'll find is a lot of sites that look like this. So here's all the ones from the Boston area. So I'll make it a little bit bigger. So I'm just showing you this as an example. Of course, most of you probably are not in Boston, but here's some that I found. The Hitchhiker's Guide to Boston Tech, the Boston Tech and Startup Events, Events Calendar, Tech Ladies for Women in Tech, Events in Boston, She Geeks Out, Wonder Woman Boston, right? There are gonna be a lot of these events that you can just like slowly start to Google and find other event boards that will lead you to more opportunities. So there are often ones that are simple just on meetup.com, but if you Google and you ask around a little bit, you're going to find more and more opportunities, right, for these events. Okay. And so don't just reside to meetup.com. You got to look in your location. Like in your location, there are going to be other boards to find meetups, and there are going to be some meetups that probably don't make it to meetup.com. It's up to you to like find and ask around to figure out what meetups are in your area. All right. So that's the first way. Events. The reason why I like events is because you get that familiarity, like just like by showing up, they start to see your face, right? I like what Reptar said. Booze can be your best friend. Typically, people are a little liquored up at these when they're in person, so everybody's having a good time, and it's really easy to kind of make some friends and get to know some folks. So start with meetup.com, then look locally for events. All right. Conferences. Right now, everyone's doing conferences. A lot of them are free, or you can figure out ways to get into them for free. And so the easiest way to find conferences are to Google like an interest and then just put the word conference after it. So if you like JavaScript, do JavaScript conference, and dozens of them will show up. You like CSS, do CSS conference, and a bunch of them will show up. On our Discord channel, there is a 100 Devs events channel. People have been shoving a lot of events in there. Take a look at them, find some, check to see if they have networking rounds, right? Like make sure it'll be worth your time. The other cool thing about conferences. Hey, Ganesh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. The other cool thing about conferences is that everyone's like there to network, right? Like they're there to like meet people, to have a good time. And so it's a little bit easier at conferences to meet people. And typically conferences are also not tied to one specific area, right? So the idea here is that conferences are a little bit more broad. And so if you're remote and you know that you're going to be looking for remote employment, conferences can be one of the easier places to get started because people are coming from all over. They're not going to have like that tight knit community that you would expect, right? So like it's not like they're going to meetups and they know everyone already. Conferences are pulling people from everywhere. And so if you're looking remotely, conferences can be a good place to start. Okay. Sometimes conferences cost money, and I don't like to recommend anything that's not 100% free. So you can often just email the folks that are running a conference and say that you need a scholarship or there's some sort of hardship. And most of the bigger conferences these days have like a hardship application where like if you're laid off due to the pandemic, which a lot of folks that are kind of tuning in here are, they're going to let you in for free. I've had most of my students, whenever the conference is expensive, just say, hey, look, I'm broke as a joke. I can't afford even like the discounted rate. Can I get in? And almost, I would say like 95% of the time they find a way to get in for free. right? And so if you don't have the means to pay for conferences, and I hate recommending things that are paid, then try like emailing the directors or people that are running the conference and see if you can get in with a scholarship or a hardship application. The other cool thing is that a lot of them are free right now. Like a lot of these bigger conferences that used to be a lot of money because like they had to pay for event space and all that stuff are now free. Like they're completely free. The other thing that I used to do, I had the shirt on earlier today. I changed out of it. The other thing I like to do at conferences is volunteer. I typically volunteer at like 1 to 2 conferences a year. And when you volunteer at a conference, they normally let you in for free. So a good email can be like, hey, I can't afford to go to the conference. Can I volunteer or somehow earn my way into the conference? And normally you'll have to like volunteer for like 1 session and then you'll get in. The other cool thing is if you volunteer, that's like a other group of like cool folks that you now get to meet. And I've made some of my best friends in tech while volunteering at conferences, like folks that I'm still Booty Liquor. Thank you for the 10 gifted subs. I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Booty Liquor, every single goddamn time. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So yeah, I typically volunteer every year at the Free Software Foundation's conference. And I typically work the gift shop. Like people can come by and like buy like books and stuff. And literally some of my best friends that I've stayed in touch with the longest I've met just because we were sitting there kind of bored out of our minds in between talks, just talking. And so volunteering can be a really great way to meet some folks, turn some strangers into friends, and to get into these conferences for free, right? And the really cool thing is that everything's remote now. So folks are coming from all over the world to go to these conferences. It's a really great way to meet folks. So events and conferences are great ways to kind of get started. For a little bit more, that's a little bit more chill. For my folks that aren't extroverted and really don't like turning on a camera or going to an event or being in a situation where you can't talk like via text, community groups can be a fabulous way to get started. Okay. Community groups are places where you're mainly going to communicate via text. They might have some meetups, but normally it's just like a Slack community or a Discord community. And those can be great places to get started. So typically there are some that are like broad. So let's say you really just like programming. There are so many programming Discords, programming Slack channels, different things that you can find. Let's say there's something you're really interested in. Maybe you're really interested in like Linux, right? GNU Linux, right? There are so many like GNU Linux IRC channels or Discord groups or Slack channels that you can join and hang out and get to know folks via text. There are big directories of these channels, but often what I'll tell you to do is like find an interest in tech and then do like Slack after it. Or find an interest in tech and do Discord after it. Hey, Anonymous, thank you so much. There are some other like really big Discord channels, like the Programmers Hangout, that if you join those Discord channels, you can find other ones that are smaller. Hey, Bearing Soto, thank you for the hydration. Cheers to you. Thank you so much. Oh, nerd, I like that suggestion. A lot of folks will find these communities via Reddit. That's a good suggestion as well. Reddit can be a good place to find these. And then also Twitter. And so the idea here is that there are groups for whatever your passion or interest is in tech. And then also, if you're Latinx or if you're a woman or if there's some other group by which you identify, there are probably specialty groups for you that can be a good place to kind of meet folks and network. And then there are these groups, but local. Right. So like local to Boston, there are some really good ones that I know of. So local to Boston, there's a local Techeria chat, which is for Latinx folks in tech. There is a Boston Civic Hack. Like it's a group of folks. Thank you, Gunrish. I appreciate that. There's a group that meet together to like work on Boston issues every Tuesday. There's a Python group that meets up regularly, but all those groups have online Slack or Discord communities where you can just work and hack and hang out and get to know folks, right? And so the cool thing is, like, you can find these community groups. And then the thing I want to tell you is that local is always better with these. There are really big, like, international ones, but then I'm pretty sure no matter where you are or wherever your closest tech hub is, there are going to be local communities that you can like utilize and hang out and get to know folks all via text. The other thing too I wanted to mention is for conferences, a new way for conferences are breakout sessions where you're quiet. They're breakout sessions where you don't have to be extroverted, where you can kind of come work on a project with some other folks and not really feel the social pressure to interact, right? You can sit down on your laptop and talk. Sit there and just code, or you can interact and like work with folks together. I know the Free Software Foundation, their conference, they always have 2 events that they put on at the same time. They have one event that's like a party at like a pub, and then they have like a space where you can come and just work on projects together. And so like you can find like niches in these conferences too that don't have to be full blown rager, networking, extroverted your eyeballs out. These community groups can also be really impactful if you find a project that you're really interested in. The one thing I always tell folks to do is, like, once you learn the basics, it's pretty helpful to get involved with some sort of open source or free software project. These are communities of individuals that are open to new folks that are just learning how to code that can contribute things to that project, whether it be like translating things, updating the text on websites, fixing small bugs, right? There are a lot of communities that will be welcoming. And in the materials today, when I follow up after stream, I'm going to share some resources for like breaking into like free software, open source, and some of the best people I've ever met. Some of the best people I've ever met in tech that I have some of the best relationships with are folks that I've met through like open source and free software work, where it's a project that I really enjoy. Over time, we build it, and I get to know them on a not only like a personal level, but also a coding level. So if you're talking about like a less extroverted way to meet folks, working on free software or open source projects, or joining a community group that works on like civic hacking projects, can be a really great way to like get to know folks, get to know them professionally, and they can be some of the best references when it comes time for referrals, because not only do they know you, but they know your code quality and the journey that you've gone through. So those are some of the best like ways to find folks is like a community group. So you can do events, you can do conferences. If those are too extroverted and it's not something you feel comfortable doing, community groups that you can kind of pick your pace with can be a great entryway into like meeting folks and getting to know them. Chop, yeah. If you get to meet them, yeah, sure, yeah, cool. Now the other one that's kind of new to me, and I didn't know about this until I was talking to my students about how they were getting their connections. Me and my wife have been together for 14 years, so I've never been on Bumble or Tinder, and that whole like experience has been wasted on me. When I looked up apps, this was the photo. I don't know what this comes from. I don't know where I just thought it was funny, so I put it in here. Sorry if it's like freaking anybody out. This is what came up when I searched apps for GIFs. So a lot of my students have turned to using these apps during the pandemic. The first one is Lunch Club AI. It's a professional networking app that will connect you one-on-one with somebody that wants to network. Right? I love everybody in the chat. It's hilarious. So it will connect you with somebody that wants to network. And then Bumble also has something similar called Bumble Biz. So Bumble is like a Tinder competitor, but now they have like a version of Bumble where you can just meet people professionally. The advice I heard from folks using these is to be careful. Make sure you keep it business. but it can be a pretty easy way to get connected with folks that are looking to network. And you can even set like parameters, like you're looking for tech and stuff like that, because you both know going into it, that's what you're there for. Like you're both here to network, you're there to meet someone professionally. And so it can be an easy way. So if you're having a hard time meeting folks in events or conferences and it's just too overwhelming, the text-based approach to community groups isn't working out, and you just want something that's going to be a little bit more like, here you go, the apps can be a good place to meet folks. Baby, please, I promise I'm only on Bumble for work. Alyssa. Yeah. Cool. The other thing, too, is that you should probably tell your friends and family that you're a software engineer now, and that you are looking, like, just let them know that's what you do, that you, like, write code, and make sure you put it out there, because you never know, that old friend from high school, that your aunt's best friend, they all might be engineers, and there might be a way to meet folks that are already kind of connected to your network. So just put it out there. Tell your friends, tell your family, put it on Facebook, put it on Twitter that, hey, I'm an engineer and I'm looking to kind of meet other folks in the industry. If you know someone, connect me. All right. And you'd be surprised how many folks will come out of the woodwork. They'll be like, oh yeah, I've been coding for like 3 years now. I work at so-and-so. So put it out there. Put it out there and you'll probably find some folks. Cookie codes. You're a what? Yeah. I stepped away and came back to a lion-shaped freak. Yeah. With my luck, this will backfire on me. Yeah, Sans, that's the number one thing you're going to get back is, great, you know how to write JavaScript? Can you turn on my printer? That's going to be the number one response you get. But trust me, put it out there, and you'll be surprised who comes out the woodwork. All right. Here is Leon's patented follow-up method. This is I'm waiting for the patent to come in. Okay. And so this is what I encourage you all to do. It has worked tirelessly for me. And so here's how it goes. You meet someone at an event, a conference, a community group. You meet them on an app, right? The next day, send them an email saying, hey, it was great meeting you. I love talking about JavaScript and your journey into learning JavaScript, right? And on Thursday, I'm going to give you actual templates for all this. So on Thursday, I'll have templates for what that email looks like. So if you're feeling like, I don't know what to say, I don't know how to respond, that's all right. I'm going to give you templates. Then on 3 days later, next day you emailed them, right? And then on the third day, you're going to add them on LinkedIn with a message. Everyone raise your right hand right now. Everyone raise your right hand. I can see you. Hey, you right there, raise your hand. All right. Everybody raise their right hand. I promise. You can repeat after me. I got up. I promise. Come on, say it. I promise to never send a LinkedIn request without a message. All right. You're all newly knighted developers of the web. You have all made a sacred vow to never send a LinkedIn request without a message. Beautiful. There's 400 of y'all here right now. So that's 400 folks that just took a solemn oath to never send another LinkedIn request without a message. So you meet somebody. The next day you send them an email. Hey, great meeting you. I really enjoyed the things we talked about. We definitely a cult now. The following in 3 days, so like the following on day 3, you send them a message on LinkedIn. You send a request, but that request has a message. And that message is, again, hey, really appreciate taking the time to get to know you. Really looking forward to the thing we talked about. Boom. And then you send the request. Then on day 6, so 3 more days, right? On day 6, you add them on Twitter. So meet, email, LinkedIn, Twitter. What are we doing here, folks? What is this? What is this? Right? What are we doing to these people? How are we hacking their brains? What are we doing? Pi got it. Yep, Pi got it. It's spaced repetition. We are literally spaced repetitioning them knowing who you are. Right? We're stalking. No, you met this person. We're not stalking. We're space stalking. No. We're flattening their forgetting curve. They will not forget you now. If you do this, they will not forget you. Right? And be like, oh yeah, we met at that meetup. Like we talked about JavaScript. Yeah, I really enjoyed our conversation, and they will not forget you. Okay. So we're literally spaced repetitioning them understanding who we are. All right. This is like the secret right here. This is it. You do this. This is gold. This is liquid gold right here. This right here. Whew, you do this. Oh boy. What day do we show up outside their house? Please don't be that person. All right. Now, some folks you're going to meet and you're going to want to have a coffee chat. Remember, you owe me 2 coffee chats a week after the holiday. And so those coffee chats are just a chance for you to sit down and get to know someone a little bit better. Now, coffee chats used to be like literally in person. Like you would meet up, get coffee, and then talk. The super duper hack for coffee chats in person, especially like if you don't have money, is to get there early and get like a small cup of water. Like just ask for a cup of water, or if you're feeling cheeky, like a small black coffee, and then sit down. If you get there early, there's no awkward like, hey, should I buy you a coffee or should you buy me a coffee? Nope. You got there early, you got your small black coffee, and you sat down, right? Then they come and you're like, I already got my coffee, and why don't you go get some coffee if you want, right? That's the trick. But since we are all virtual, these are just going to be follow-up. So you meet somebody at a conference, you meet them at like a meetup, and during that time, you say, hey, I really like getting to know you. I would love to just pick your brain a little bit about how you got into tech or how you got to where you are. I would love to find a time for us to meet later on, right? And so don't worry, on Thursday, we're going to walk through the template of like that email. And so you send an email up. You send an email asking for a coffee chat. Hey, we met at this event. I would love to pick your brain. You're where I want to be in 2 years, like 3 years. Like, can we talk? Right? 1 week later, you send a follow-up saying, hey, let me know if there's any time. Follow up 2 weeks later, and then you send one last email. 3 emails, that's it. No more. Because if after 3 emails, they don't respond to you, they don't want to talk to you. Right? So you do 3 emails. Spaced 1 week, 2 weeks, and then a month, and then you drop it. Okay. So that's for the coffee chat. And on Thursday, I'll give you the templates for those emails and how to ask eloquently for a coffee chat. But there's 2 systems here. One, you've met somebody. This is the normal follow-up. If you want to take it to the next level and have a coffee chat, this is the frequency for those emails. And then above all, use the sheet. What sheet, you might ask? The sheet that is linked here in the slides. So if you click on that link, it'll take you to the sheet. And so here is the sheet. The sheet has the place where you met them, like the event name, the date that you met them, their name, look at all the people joining. That's hilarious. Their company and position, the spark. This is the important thing. The spark is like, what did y'all talk about? Like, what's the thing that you're going to remember about them? Right? Like, what's the thing that like you talked about? Did you talk about Pokemon? Like, if we're at a meetup, we've probably talked about Pokemon. So like, you better like put that in the spark. Like, what was the connection? What is the thing you talked about? What's the thing that you need to remember? Hopefully you got their email. If you didn't get their email, don't worry. As long as you know their company, I'll show you how to get the email. Hopefully you got their email. And then there are 3 things that you want to mark off. Did you follow up? Yes. Did you add them on LinkedIn? Yes. And did you add them on Twitter? Yes. Right? So the idea is you do the follow-up the day after, you add them on LinkedIn on day 3, and you add them on Twitter on day 6. And so you're going to keep this. This is your sheet for networking, because guess what happens? Eventually, you're going to use this to reach back out to people. When you're ready to have a job, when you're ready to get a job, you're going to copy all of these people and send them an email. Hey, we met at this meetup a couple of months ago. I mentioned how I was a new web developer, a new software engineer. I'm at the point now where I'm looking for a job. Do you know of any opportunities? Boom. Or better yet, when you build out something called your hit list, like the 60 companies you want to apply to, you're going to go on LinkedIn and see who's connected to that company, who's one step away, who can you reach out? And then you're going to come back to this list and be like, oh, Bob from company X. The spark is that we're just 2 chill dudes, right? And so that was the spark between me and Bob originally. And so then I would reach back out and be like, hey, Bob, we met at that event. You're from company X. We're both chill dudes. And I would like to apply to that company. Can you recommend me? Okay. So that's the idea. That's the idea here, right? Yeah, wild. So that's the idea here, right? Like, this list is going to be like your gold list. It's going to help you when it's time to find a job. It's going to help you find connections once you have a job. So every single time you network and you meet somebody, for the love of all that is holy, put them on the list. Put them on the list. Use the sheet. So for this sheet, all you have to do is do file and then make a copy. You do make a copy and then it's yours and you can use it. So just click make a copy. It'll make a copy that'll save to your Google Drive and then you're off to the races. That's all you got to do. So the link is here in the slides. And so there you go. What if we already know somebody in a tech company? Great. Reach out to them. Say, hey, I'm a new engineer. I'm looking to break into tech. So this is kind of like the high level overview. This is kind of like the high level overview. On Thursday, we're going to talk through like actual examples. Like, here is like a place I'm going to show you where I would go to find a meetup. Like, I just moved live. I'm going to find a meetup. Then I'm going to show you some lead-in questions at events and conferences, like things that I use to start talking to folks, because I know that can be really nerve-wracking for some individuals. Then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the follow-up emails that I would send, the follow-up LinkedIn messages that I would send, right? And I'll show you an example of something that would go on this sheet. So the idea here is we did high level. And then on Thursday, I'm going to give you some of the details and some of the starter code. I said starter code, starter conversations. Questions? Other questions? Oh, somebody said, hey, as we get along with more and more people over the years, are we going to keep in touch with hundreds of people on a 100-long list? Or are we going to change our method? That's a fabulous question. There are going to be some people that you absolutely want to stay in touch with. engineering managers, people that you just click with, right? Like, remember, the idea is to form friends, right? So you want to stay friendly with most of these people. But here is the secret sauce. Wolfgang, thank you for the hydration. Cheers to you. Here's the really. This is Leon's pro course right here. You ready? The pro course. Google Alerts. That's it, folks. It's Google Alerts all the way down. It's just Google Alerts. Always has been. Right? With a Google Alert, you can set a Google Alert for somebody's name. So you met somebody really cool. Set a Google Alert for their name. They we paid extra for this. If they work for a cool company, add a Google Alert for their company. It's free real estate, right? It's free real estate, right? Add a Google Alert for their company. A year from now, when you see the Google Alert in your email for that company, say, "Hey, Bob. Hey, Bob. I just saw that Company X raised a Series B. I hope things are going really well. I hope some of that money's making it into your pockets. And hey, I would love to catch up sometime. Let me know if you're ever free for a coffee chat." That's it. It's free real estate, folks. It's free real estate. That's all you do. And so this is how you can keep it fresh. You do the patented follow-up method. You've met them, you've emailed them, you've LinkedIn them, you've Twittered them, you've added them to your sheet, set up a Google Alert. That's it. It seems a little bit seems like a lot up front, but this is it. It's how it works, folks. I'm going to reach back out to them whenever I see their Google Alert pop up and say, "Oh, I saw you were in the Boston Globe. Congrats on your success. Seems like things are going well. If you ever want to grab some coffee, let's grab some coffee." How would you recommend going about networking for a city you're going to be moving to, but don't have things finalized yet? Same exact way. So this is the beauty right now. Like, the beauty is that everyone can network in the city of their dreams and nobody will ever know because it's all virtual, right? You want to network in the Valley, like you want to network in San Francisco, you can do it now. Like right now, like I'm telling you, this is the best time in the history of tech to network, right? Literally the best time in the history of tech to network, because I don't care if you're in the middle of Iowa. Loved Iowa, by the way. I drove through this through the state. I don't care if you're in the middle of Iowa, you can pretend that you're in San Francisco and be networking. Right? Nothing stopping you. And that's beautiful. A lot of tech companies will pay for your interviews like out in that city. So if you get some San Francisco interviews, like some of them will pay for you to come out, but most of the interviews are all virtual anyway. So like, who cares? I don't care if you're I don't care if you're somewhere that is 1,000 miles away from a tech hub. You could be networking today in San Francisco. You could be networking today in Boston. You could be networking today in Austin, and nobody would ever know. Location catfishing. Yeah. So yeah. So that's kind of what I recommend. You could even be like, look, I think if I went to an event and somebody told me they're actually from Iowa, but they just wanted to network in San Francisco, I'd be like, fucking yeah, like kudos to you, like way to be a boss, right? Like, I think that would be funny to me. I think that would be cool. Sounds like Tinder Passport. I don't know what that is. I do know what that is, but only because of a YouTube video. Alrighty. Can we start now and count that what we'll owe you after the holidays? No, there is no stacking. So you meet 100 people 1 week, that does nothing for you the next week. Great for you to meet 100 people in 1 week though, but no stacking. Great question. Damn, there goes my free real estate. All right. Let's get a few questions in, and then we're going to take a break, folks, because we've been going for a little over an hour. My programmer friend is starting a book club with her tech friends. Would joining this and investing a lot of time with a small number of engineers be worthwhile? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. The more intimate of a connection you can make, the better. I can't stress this enough. Quality over quantity. I rather you have 30 folks that know you well as opposed to 200 people that barely know your name. 200 people that barely know your name means nothing. That's why we just don't go on LinkedIn and click, 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 click. No. Make sure you have a real connection. You've met them somewhere. You've talked. You've had a conversation, or you've seen them consistently, like on a Slack channel or a Discord. Something that like you both know each other. That's what you want to go for. Blopsicle. This is class 6 of the bootcamp, but we've been streaming for a little longer than that. I have 2 guys ask me to interview at their startup I met at the gym. They may be under the impression I'm better than I am at front end. Should I interview, or should I say I'm still learning? Luck Monkey, the best thing you can say is, hey, I'm currently not interviewing, but I will be in the near future. Because then that makes it seem like you're too cool for school. Like, hey, yeah, no, I'm not interviewing right now, but in the near future I might be. So say, hey, yeah, like in a couple months I think I'll be interviewing. That's all. And I said, what if you're not a good conversationalist? There's a couple of things I recommend. The first thing is if you say, hey, I'm not a great conversationalist, you must immediately read How to Win Friends and Influence People. You must stop what you're doing and read that book. That book, you can find for free online. If for whatever reason you can't find that book online for free, you can find like the cliff notes or the highlights for free and read those. It's going to give you a framework on how to deal with people. Like literally, like everything I know about how to talk to people, I got from that book, right? So for anybody that's like, I would suck at this, I don't know how to do this, start with that book. It'll literally lay out how to talk to people. Once you have that, it's just trial and error. Some of these are gonna go really awkward. That's it. That's the great secret of networking. I've had some really awkward interactions in my life at tech events, at networking. Hey, some days it's not your day. Some days it just doesn't click with each other, and that's okay. You move on to the next person. The cool thing right now is if it gets too much, you just click escape, right? Like a lot of these are all digital. You're not liking the event. You don't like the people that are there. 2 clicks and you're gone. Right. This is not like it is like normal. Like normal, normally my students have to like leave our classroom, travel 20, 30 minutes to a meetup, get in just to see there's only 10 people there that they already know. And then they have to leave, travel 20, 30 minutes to another event to get there and realize, oh, it's the same 10 people I met last week. Right. And then leave and go like, you don't have to do that right now. You just click. You don't like it, you click away. It's I don't agree with this, but I think it's really funny. No, I'm not even gonna say it. Never mind. That's mean. Cool. Nope, I'm good. Let's just say it's what oh crap, what's his name? It was a famous rapper's take on cyberbullying. That's all I'll say. How do we stop ourselves from seeming uninterested and unqualified with tech convos when we're a little too technical and we don't know what's happening? Be honest. Yeah, it was Tyler the creator. Be honest. People, like, just be honest. Hey, like, I'm early in my career. So if you read How to Win Friends and Influence People, one of the first things they tell you is people love talking about themselves. All right? People love talking about themselves. Right? And so if you're at a meetup, it's totally fine to say, hey, I'm a new engineer. I love what you're doing. How'd you get there? Tell me how you got to where you are. Like, I would love to be where you are in a couple of years, right? People love talking about themselves. So that's an easy way. Be honest, be yourself. And yeah, that's it. The more honest you are early on, the more like real these relationships will be, right? People try to front, people try to be something that they're not. Don't do that. You're like, the point is not to have a million people in your Rolodex. It's to have like real relationships with people that know who you are and would feel comfortable referring you for a job. Like, at the end of the day, you have to remember that. At the end of the day, it's really about trying to form real relationships with people that appreciate you and would feel comfortable connecting you with somebody for a job. That's what you're trying to get. That's networking. It's not hitting some numbers. It's not hitting some goals. Yes, I give you some numbers just to push you out of your shell a little bit, but it's more about building quality connections of folks that are going to open up opportunities for you. And that's way better if you're honest, upfront, and people actually like get to know you a little bit. Cool. Alrighty, folks. Let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break. Let me bring up the timer. Let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break. Come back in 5 minutes. Please get up, hydrate, stretch, do what you got to do. I'll see you in 5 minutes. I'm going to stretch a little bit too. Going to give Bob some water. Be right back. Ooh. I love this GIF. Got to save up for the portfolio review. Boom. I think I was just being quiet. So my time in sales has garnered a large LinkedIn network that seems exactly as you say. I don't know any of them. I connected with them because I was trying to get sales. Do you think I should start removing them and start fresh? Absolutely. There's not going to be any help if they have no idea who you are. Yeah, I always tell folks never add anybody that you don't know, because also as you progress, I have a lot of people that reach out to me and say, hey, you're connected to so-and-so on LinkedIn. Do you know them? Like, can you put me in touch? And if I don't know that person, it's a little weird. Lana with the raid. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the raid. Happy to have you all. We're currently taking a break. So we have some folks that aren't here. But excited to have you. Excited to see you all here. Thank you. Appreciate y'all for coming in. So tonight we are talking about how to network. So what we have here are folks that are learning how to code. We're doing a 30-week free bootcamp for those that are trying to make a career change. And so we just spent the first hour tonight talking about how to network. And so now we're taking a 5-minute break just so folks can stretch, hydrate, be healthy. Thank you for the raid. I appreciate that so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody who's following. I appreciate y'all. Welcome. We're going to cover CSS and responsive CSS tonight. So appreciate y'all. Funny commentary with the gifted sub. Thank you for gifting that sub. Lux, hey, appreciate you. I really enjoyed your stream yesterday when we raided. Hung around for a long time. It was a lot of fun. I think it was something I'll definitely like. I think I could like work and listen at the same time. I think that'd be cool. It was also really neat to see kind of all the progress. That was dope. Hey, thank you for the sub. I appreciate you. Hey, everybody that's just joined, I appreciate the raid. Appreciate you for joining us. Lana, thank you again. I appreciate you for stopping by. Yeah, so we got about a minute left, and then we're going to get into it. Like I said, we just spent the first hour or so stream catching up and talking about how to network and how to go about actually finding a job in tech. And one of the things that we say over and over again is that if you're trying to find a job in a tech and you're just clicking apply, you might as well print out your resume, throw it in the trash can. You want to make sure that that you're actually networking your way into those opportunities. And so we talked a little bit about how to do that. MoGamer95, hey, thank you for the sub. Appreciate that. I appreciate all the follows too. There's a lot of y'all, so I can't kind of shout you out, but thank you for the follows. Am I getting any new gen systems, or am I just on PC? I'm a PC gamer. I'm always like a generation behind with the main console. So I typically do like PC and Nintendo, and then I'll probably pick up like a PS4 when everybody starts selling them. Alyssa, thank you for the cheers. Alrighty, folks, come on back. Hope you're able to get some hydration. Hope you're able to stretch. Hope you're able to take care of yourself, kiss some babies. So let's come on back. We spent the first part of stream talking about how to network, and then we're going to move into reviewing some CSS. We're going to talk about how to make our websites responsive, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Flexbox as a hint for Thursday's class. Alrighty, folks. If you're new, welcome. If you want to follow along with class, that'd be really cool. You can do !slides and get access to the slides that I have up on screen now. So if you don't like me auto advancing them for you, you can remove that little /live. And then we're going to use a lot of starter code tonight. So we're going to actually be coding things out. If you want that starter code, you can join our Discord group, !Discord. And what that will do is it will let you join our Discord community. Once you join, agree to the rules. And then once you agree to the rules, you will be able to join the Follow Along Materials channel and get all the materials that we're using tonight. So if you want the code, go ahead on Discord. Agree to the rules, follow along materials. If you want the slides, !slides, and that's what we'll be doing. Got to get your skills back up from 1.6. Yeah, my main game is Counter-Strike. We should do like a Scouts Knives night one night. That'd be fun. Alrighty, folks, let's continue. Let's get into the thick of it. Let me go ahead and kill the music here. All right. So on Thursday, we're going to come back to this topic again. We are going to look at actual real examples. We're going to look at the emails that we would send, the follow-ups that we would send, the LinkedIn messages that we would send. And I'm going to give you templates for all of these that you're going to change and make your own so you can start using them. All right. Now, I've had a lot of folks reach out and say, hey, Leon, can I do more? Can I push? And the answer is yes. But like I said before, we're easing into it, right? We're in class 6 now, and we're kind of hitting our stride a little bit, right? We kind of know what to expect. We know what to get out of class. We had office hours, right? And so now we're going to slowly turn up the heat, okay? You're going to start having more to do for homework. You're going to start having a little bit more intense things to do during class. The expectations are going to rise a little bit, right? So we're going to slowly turn it up. So over the next week or two, you're going to notice the intensity go up a little bit, and the amount of work that I give you is going to go up a little bit too. Okay. And then 2 weeks from now, you're going to see it go up a little bit more. And so the point here is that you're going to start to have more and more things that you're building, more and more things that you're doing. And MPF Dev, I think they're a lot of fun too. So I'm listening to you. We're turning it up. I like folks to ramp up, right? I like folks to ramp up. I hate tutorials or programs that throw people into the deep end of the pool and sit there and laugh at them while they flounder, right? So we're ramping up together, and I promise you, it's the pace is going to go up. There's going to be more things to do. There's going to be more fun things to build, and it's going to get a little bit more intense. Also, after the holiday, every class I will also be giving push work. So if you have a little bit more free time and you want to push, that push work will help you go deep, right? Remember, always deep over wide. So that push work will help you go deeper, but it won't be required. It's just there if you want to push. So when we come back from Thanksgiving, you'll have the normal work and then push work if you want it. But we're ramping on up, folks. All right, so it's about to get turned. Alrighty, folks, let's jump into it. Let's do some spaced repetition here. Golden rule, separation of concerns. We should keep our content inside of our HTML, our style inside of our CSS, our behavior and interaction should be in our JavaScript. Why is this important, folks? Chat, why is this important? Boom. Who got it first? Let's see. Count the Shells, I think, got it first this time. Yeah, it's organization, right? It's organization for you, right? So when you come back to your code, you know where to go and change things or make things, right? And then when you're working with a team, right? When you're working with a team, you know where to come back to. Oh, hey, we hit a hype train. That's cool. Thank you all. So if you're working on a team, and your team member says, hey, I want to make something blue, where do you all go? If somebody on your team says, hey, I want to make something blue, where do they go? If we're all adhering to separation of concerns, CSS, beautiful. If I say, hey, I have an extra paragraph of text I want, where do they go, chat? Beautiful, HTML. And if they say, hey, when you click on this, I want the text to wiggle, right? Where do they go? JavaScript. So since we're agreeing to the separation of concerns, it's really easy for us to go and make changes, but it's also really easy for our team members to go and make changes as well. If we're adhering to the separation of concerns, where does the CSS go? Does CSS go in line with our HTML? Does it go in the head of our HTML? Or does it go into a separate file? Ooh, bugaboo, I think, with the first one tonight. Yeah, a separate file, right? If we're adhering to this golden rule, it's gonna be a separate file. Beautiful. Now, the link to it goes in the head. I saw some people saying that in the chat, of course. All right, let's play our favorite game in the world. What is this? All right, folks. Let's start off with a slightly hard one. What did I just circle, chat? Chew, I saw it. The CH is the first thing I caught. Yeah, it's a declaration block. Nice. How about this, chat? What did I just circle? A declaration, right? If that whole thing's a declaration block is made up of declarations. How about this, chat? What's that? Yep, that's our lovely selector. How about that, chat? What did I just grab there? AUI off the gate. Yeah, it's a value. How about that, chat? What's that? Property, lovely. And to finish it off, chat, what's that? Sabotage in first. Yes, it's a rule. Nice. So remember, CSS is made up of rules. Rules are made up of selectors and declaration blocks. Declaration blocks are made up of declarations. And our declarations are broken up into property and value pairs. Nice. Well done. Remember, in CSS, we have something called the cascade, which means that the rules that come above can be overwritten by the rules that come below. So we can have something that's styled above, and then down below, we can change its style due to the cascade. But things that come below can only override stuff that comes above if the what is the same or greater. Chat, if the what is the same or greater. Ooh. Indie Blow and Bugaboo out there first. Yes. If the specificity is the same or greater. So here we have a paragraph rule here where the color was red. And then below that rule, we had a rule where the color was blue. Since both of these rules have the same level of specificity, they're both one paragraph, so it will be 1 point specificity, they can override each other. Now, the paragraph will still be font weight bold, but the color will be blue instead of red. Nice. Getting our review in, folks, getting our spaced repetition in. Nice. We can use relationships to select tags. So here is a direct parent-child relationship. This is a child that's directly inside of a section, right? So we have a paragraph that's directly inside of a section. There's no other parents. And so we can select that element with section right caret P. Lovely. We also have parent-child relationships. Here, it doesn't matter how deep you go, right? We have a paragraph that's inside of a section. And it doesn't matter that there's another parent, the article wrapping around it, because there is a space and not a right caret. When it's a space, it doesn't matter how deep you go, right? It can be nested as deep as you want. It will still work. So this still targets this paragraph and makes it red, even though the direct parent is an article. Cool. We've seen this before. And then the last relationship that we've talked about plenty in the past is a sibling relationship. So there's only one paragraph here whose immediate sibling is another paragraph. This hello Twitch does not have another sibling. There's nothing above it inside the section. So this P plus P only targets YouTube to make it red. Ghost. Cool. We also talked about IDs and classes. Remember, IDs are unique identifiers. You can give each element an ID and only one ID, right? Nothing else can have that ID name, and elements can't have more than one. So it's my way of talking to that element and only that element and styling that element and only that element. We also have classes. Classes can be put on multiple elements so you can share styles, right? So we have some folks here that are on Discord. And so you have a unique identifier on Discord, which is your name, which is your ID. And then some of you have the class Lana and some of you have the class Leon, depending on which stream you came from, right? Classes can be shared. Some of us might have the class Awesome Hair. Some of us might have the class Glasses. Some of us might have the class Black Shirt. Some of us might have, as you can see down there, class Bob, right? So that's Bob there on the class. We have class Bob, right? So the idea here is that classes can be reused. Each element can have multiple classes, all right? And they can be reused. Wonderful. All right, let's play a game here, chat. Remember, when it comes to specificity, a class is worth 1 point. Sorry, a tag is worth 1 point. A class is worth 10 points. An ID is worth 100 points. And other is worth 1,000 points of specificity. So chat, How many points of specificity does this rule have? Oh, folks out the gate fast. Rudy Hernandez came in with it first. Yeah, I see folks saying 112, and that's correct, right? We get 10 points for the class, 1 point for the span, bringing us to 11, another point for the paragraph, bringing us to 12, and then 100 points for the ID, bringing us to 112. And if we look, this works because we have an ID of pizza, and then we're looking for a sibling. So it's a paragraph. All right. So we find a paragraph. All of these are paragraphs. But we're looking for a paragraph that has a span inside of it, where that span also has the class of gone. So this will make Mixer red. And I love that it has the class of gone. RIP. So the idea here is that we're able to target Mixer specifically using these selectors. All right. If you had done span space dot gone, that would have looked for something that had the class of gone that was inside of a span, not a span that had the class. So if we look, this span has the class of gone. We're not looking for something inside that has the class of gone. You could have used only gone as well. Yeah, Vignette. Yeah, you could have just used the class gone, but we're getting a little wild here. A lot of these selectors aren't selectors that I would actually use. It's just for the fun of the game. All right, chat. How many points of specificity does this rule have? Ooh, Cuban coming in with the heat. Yeah. There we go. 131. Let's count it out. 10 points for the class of Bob. 10 points for the class of Unicorn. 10 points for the class of Robot. 1 point for the paragraph tag. And 100 points for the ID of Diet Coke. So we got 131 points of specificity here. Quick maths. Look at words, you get it? That's awesome. And cool. So if we actually look at it here, we have something that has the ID of Diet Coke. Boom, this section has the ID. We're looking for a paragraph that has two classes, Robot and Unicorn. So here's a paragraph that has the class of Robot and Unicorn. None of the other paragraphs have Robot and Unicorn, right? And then we're looking for its sibling that has the class of Bob. So if we look, this right here has the class of Bob, right? Has the class of Bob. It's a sibling to the paragraph that has the class of Robot and Unicorn, and they're inside the section that has the ID of Diet Coke. Whew. That's ridiculous. I would never do this in real life for the game. All right, last one, chat. What is the last one? Huh? Yeah, last one. What is the amount of specificity for this rule? Boom. All right. Yeah, so if we look, we're seeing 1,130. So let's go ahead and take a look. 10 points for Bob, 10 points for Domino's Pizza, 10 points for Robot, bringing us to 30, 100 for Diet Coke, so that's 130, but then we have this bang important, which adds 1,000. So we're at 1,130 points of specificity. Dope. That's pretty cool. Bang. Somebody said, what is a sibling? A sibling is just an element that's in the same level together. So we notice all these paragraphs are in the same level inside of the section. So all of these paragraphs are siblings to each other. Yeah. Y'all did good on this one tonight. Not many people got tricked with the bang important. Well done. All right. Box model, and then we're gonna do some coding. So remember, the box model talks about how every single thing in web development is a what, chat? Everything in web development is a what? A box. Beautiful. Every single thing in web development is a box. And this is really important because we eventually want to sit stuff next to each other. We want to sit stuff inside of other stuff. And so the box model becomes important. Now, the box model is made up of a few key pieces: the height and width of the element, its padding, and its border. And then margin can push the box model all around. So remember, padding just increases the distance between the element and its border. All right. So let's say this lovely pop filter on my microphone is the border. If I was to increase the padding on my microphone, we would see the pop filter go up, 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 because we're increasing the distance between the element and its border. All right. So as the padding decreases, the border would get closer to the microphone. Indifferent Ghost, hey, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. I really appreciate that. The gifted subs today have been off the charts. I really appreciate y'all. I really do. For those that are new, we're running a completely free web development bootcamp, and everything I ever do will be free. I'll never charge for a course. I'll never put anything behind a paywall. Everything is free. And all the donations, cheerings, subs, that all goes to the nonprofit I work at during the day called Resilient Coders. So we've had over 50 gifted subs today. I really appreciate y'all. We've already paid this year for a stipend for one of my students to go through the program completely free. So I appreciate y'all. Really do. Cool. That's the box model. We got some lovely code to work through. So in the starter code today is a box model practice. There's some HTML and an empty CSS file. Everything is already linked for you. And you'll notice there are some questions here in the LI. So we're going to put 5 minutes on the clock here. And I'm going to ask you to go ahead and open up that starter material and to work through these problems for the next 5 minutes. So I'll bring up the clock. If you need the materials, !Discord in the chat. Join our Discord, agree to the rules, and then you'll get access to the follow along materials channel where you'll find the zip for today. Open that zip up in your text editor. You can use Atom, VS Code, or any editor you feel comfortable with, and start getting to work. 5 minutes on the clock, folks. Have at it. I'm going to bring up some tunes. I'm not going to say anything important. If you have questions, I'm here to answer questions while you work, but please work on these problems. If you're super new and you haven't learned any HTML or CSS before, we just did some review, and all of our previous classes, all previous 5 classes are available on YouTube, !YouTube, or as VODs here on Twitch. So you can look at them either place. If you are interested in learning how to code, interested in learning HTML and CSS, JavaScript, full stack web development with Node and MongoDB and Postgres, and then a little bit of React, this is the place for you. Join our Discord community. Thousands of folks all learning how to code, super supportive. Alyssa, we don't have the ability to adjust quality yet, only once we hit partner, which based off of our numbers, we'll be able to hit it surely. Dragonoid with the done. What's that? 2 minutes, 20 seconds? Wow. Sheenan said, what are you drinking tonight? I am drinking some diet green tea. It is delicious. The quality thing is interesting. We're affiliate, so most nights we're going to get quality settings. But if there are a lot of partners streaming and they don't have resources, like if there's a big tournament or something, we most likely won't get the quality settings. So sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Cat, I love it. Once Kat knows what I'm drinking, then she does hydration. Cheers to you. Thank you. Oh, Cyborg Ninja, sorry to hear that. Not done, but your computer is. Good luck with the restart. Yeah, listen, I've already talked to them about it, and they basically said once we have, like, we already have everything we need except for number of days a week streaming. And so they said once we get those number of days up, we're good. Cool. Good luck. 2 minutes left, folks. Ooh, Sheenan with the done. MJ Untitled with the Dunzo. Love it. Yeah, listen, I've heard that too, that it takes a while for them to get back. Hannah, you can do Command, comma, and then click install on Mac. Yeah, Jelani, Creative Cloud can be pretty heavy. I definitely would. I kill it most of the time on my computer. Even like their updating tool can be pretty heavy too. Be careful. BB Tone, did you open the right file? Make sure you download it today's materials, class 6 materials. And then we're inside of the box model practice. Chaz, please, with the done. Cat with the done. Carmen with the done. Nice. Ooh, the new Halo 4 added to the Master Chief Collection. I never really, like, I played Halo a little bit, but me and one of my friends have been getting back into it. It's a very different game than something like Counter-Strike. Positioning and like hiding and stuff are really important. Have you ever done competitive programming? Yes, a little bit. It's something I've been studying really hard to get better at. I find it a lot of fun. So yeah, I've been working on that. That's kind of like me and another person are kind of just like freshening up all of our data structures and algorithms and all that fun stuff to get better at competitive programming. Alrighty, folks, a few more seconds. Alrighty, come on back. Even if you're not done, come on back. We're gonna go over this together. Let's go over it together. Come on back, come on back. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and just grab all this stuff here, and we are going to copy it and make it a comment in our CSS. And I'm going to kill the music. Boom. All right, I was going to comment this. All right, let's take a look. Please give the H1 some padding on 3 sides, margin on just 1 side, and a light purple background with a light blue lettering. Ooh, fancy. We could have done padding left, padding right, padding bottom, or we could have remembered the shortcut that we talked about yesterday, the shorthand. So let's use the shorthand for these. So let's target the H1. We're going to give it some padding on all 4 sides. Even though we're doing 3, we have to do all 4. So let's go ahead and let's do top, bottom, and left. So let's go ahead and do top. Let's do 20 pixels. Right, we'll do 0. Bottom, let's do 30 pixels. And left, let's do 50 pixels, right? Remember, when you use the shorthand, we're going clockwise. We're going top, right, bottom, left. Have no idea if that was right or left on stream. Chat, is this right or left? Am I pointing to the right or am I pointing to the left? So that's right and that's left. That's good to know. All right. It's opposites. It's mirrored. All right, cool. So we did padding. We put padding on 3 sides and none on the top. Margin on just 1 side. So we could do the shorthand like we just saw, or we could do something like margin left and do 100 pixels. Cool. There we go. Now we have padding on 3 sides, margin on 1. Let's do a light purple background. Chat, what did y'all do for light purple? Background for light purple. Luckmo. I like yours. Lucomo gave me a RGBA, which, as you know, is my favorite. Nice. Oh, people use like plum or lavender. Lovely. I'm going to use your RGBA. Nice. And then the last one is a light blue lettering. So let's go ahead and do color for the lettering. And what did y'all use for light blue? What did y'all use for light blue? Sky blue, light blue. I think light blue is a color keyword. Let's go ahead and do light blue. Cool. Let's save this. Let's go ahead and open this in the browser. Beautiful. Look at that. That's design. That's aesthetic right there. Light blue coloring, light purple background, light purple background, light purple background. We have padding on 3 sides, and we can see that there's some lovely margin here on the left. And he said the nuns are hard at work. That is true. I always just feel bad for the new folks that are like, why does he talk about nuns and dominoes so much? Watch class 1. All right. Let's do the next one here. Please give the H2 significant padding. So let's go ahead and do our H2. And let's go ahead and give it significant padding on the top and bottom. Let's use the color key, like the shortcut again here. Padding, so we'll do 100 pixels. So significant, let's do 100 pixels on the top, 0 on the right, 100 on the bottom, and 0 on the left. A dark green border on the top and bottom. So that's an interesting one. Border on the top and bottom is interesting, but we can do border top, just like that. Do 3 pixels, solid. And what did y'all do for dark green? Dark green, what did y'all use for dark green, chat? Dark green. Some artists in the channel today. Cool. And then we'll do the same thing, but border bottom. Cool. Beautiful. So now we have a border on the top, border on the bottom, and an orange background. All right, lovely. Let's go ahead and save that and refresh. Look at that. That's beautiful. Notice there's no border. There's no border on the left. There's no border on the right. We're good. Lovely. Let's keep a pushing, folks. Kate's with me on the RGBA. I like it. Ooh, Pasta Lord. You can do top and bottom on the same line. You can. All right. Please give this section a thick blue border. So let's go ahead and give our section. Let's go ahead and do border. Thick. Let's do 10 pixels. Solid blue. And height of 300 pixels. And more than 400 pixels of margin on the top. So height 300, margin 400. Height 300 pixels and margin top of more than 400. So we'll be cheeky and do 401. Cool. Let's save it. Let's make sure we're doing good here. There we go. We got that lovely 400 pixels of margin. Remember, margin pushes the box model around. We got this thick blue border. Nice. Please make all the spans have thin yellow borders and equal padding and margin on all sides. All right. Let's go ahead and do span. Let's go ahead and do thin borders. Let's just do it really small. Let's go ahead and do just like 2 pixels. Solid yellow, and equal padding and margin on all sides. So let's do padding. Let's just keep it neat, 10 pixels, margin, 10 pixels. And let's go ahead and save it. I think that's good. Let's go ahead and refresh. Oh, look at that. Artiste. Boom. Looking good with these spans. All right. And I think that was all of them, right? Beautiful. How'd y'all do? Chat, how'd you do? Did y'all get it close? Mayu. Yes, sir. Just peachy. Love it. Close enough. Good. Great. Got him. 8 out of 10. 97%. Cool. All right. That's what I like to hear. How did Bob do? He's too cool for school today. Y'all saw the beanie, right? He decided to flex on us today. Like, I'm going to look cool on this stream. All right. Let's keep pushing, folks. All right. Time for some layouts. So on Saturday, we reviewed one of the layouts together. His smile is infectious. And we did the layout with floats. How dare we talk about floats? Well, for all those that are how dare we talk about floats, we'll actually talk about Flexbox at the end of today. So you are in luck. Remember, floats for now is the way we're doing layout. We'll move to Flexbox over the next couple of classes, and then a little bit of CSS grid towards the end before we get into JavaScript. But floats are the older way of doing layout. Before, we had many layout systems. Before we had tables, and then inline, then floats, now Flexbox and CSS grid. Floats are very unique. They're very quirky. And the reason why some people love Flexbox and grid over floats is because there's so many little gotchas that you have to remember with floats, right? The thing that we have to remember with floats is that they're all fighting to get into a corner. So if you float something to the left, like this sidebar, it's going to go up until it hits the header, and then to the left until it hits the browser window, right? They're going up as much as they can go and to the left as much as they can go. When you float something to the right, it's going up as much as it can go and to the right as much as it can go. And the cool thing is if you float multiple elements, they're all going to keep fighting to get into that corner, and things that used to be stacked will sit next to each other. So that's the cool thing about floats. But so there's so many quirks, there's so many gotchas, there's so many weird things that happen. The footer slides under if it's not floated or cleared. And so floats have gone away with CSS3, but you're going to still see them in the wild. A lot of older code bases, if you joined an older team, you're going to see floats. So it's important to know how they work. The downside is you have to constantly do the math and figure out your percentages, which is a good thing to be aware of in the beginning because it forces you to be intimate with the box model. But we're going to progress. We're going to ascend. All right. Well, before we do that, let's do another simple layout using floats. And so we did, I believe we did this one during stream. Let's take a look at this one and do it together. So let's go ahead and do layout 2 together. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my template to do this layout. Okay. Before I go ahead and do that, chat, what would this be if you had to take a guess? Like what HTML element would you use here? Yep. Header. What would this be? Footer. That's a good idea. How about these 3? What could they all be? Maybe a section. If we had more content, if we had content to decide or help us make semantic decisions, we might say, oh, maybe this is an aside or something extra, right? But we don't know. We don't have any semantic logic here. So we can just pick something. Let's just pick sections for now. So 1, 2, 3, and let's call it a day. So we don't have anything semantically to guide us. So we're just going to pick for now. If we had content on here, we would know, right? So let's go ahead and I'm going to open up a template and code this out. Of course, I'm going to always share the solution code after class in Discord. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up a template here. I'm actually just going to go ahead and duplicate my template so I have a clean one. And let's call this layout. Let's call it layout 2. All right, so now I have layout 2. I'm going to go ahead and open up my HTML, and let's start with the HTML we just talked about. We're going to give myself a little room here. I'm going to put my header. And I always have a nitpick when I don't have any content. I like them being on the same line. I'm going to put my section, and I'm going to have 3 sections. So I'm just going to copy and paste this one. I'm going to copy it 2 times. Boom. Whoop. And then I'm going to put my footer. Cool. So now my header, my 3 sections, and my footer. If we look at this, though, my sections are all going to be different sizes. So what I think I can do is I can maybe get away with just giving this one section a class. And I think I can get everything I need it to go with just this section. So let's try that. So I'm going to go ahead and give the second section a class. And I'm going to give it the class of small mid. So well, I actually don't like using styles. We're just going to say mid. So we're going to give it the class of mid here. All right. And then I'm going to go to my CSS and start writing it out. So we already have the box model hack. It's good. So we don't have to worry about that. I'm going to come down to my layout, and I'm going to do my header and footer at the same time. So header and footer. We know that we're going to do a height. Let's do a height of like 100 pixels. Let's give them a border of like 2 pixels solid black so we can at least see them. And we know we're going to have to clear that footer so it doesn't slide underneath our floated content. So I'm going to do clear both. All right. So that's my header and footer. Let's go ahead and save. Let's open this in the browser. All right. We got our lovely header and footer. Boom. Somebody said, what if we just were supposed to use no classes or IDs? We could have done section plus section and then section plus section plus section. So we could have done 2 nested siblings to do it with just out using any classes. So, but I'm going to ask you to submit some of these later on. So I'm going to do it a different way than I think you might have solved it. All right, so we have our height and our border and a clear both. Let's go ahead and start our section here. Let's go ahead and make our sections a little bit taller. So let's go ahead and do height 200 pixels. Let's go ahead and just, it's probably already 100, but since we're going to mess with it, let's do width 100% just so we're clear and we don't have to worry about any funny business. And then let's go ahead and give them a border of 2 pixels solid black. So if we go ahead and do this and we save and we go back and we refresh, we have our 1, 2, 3 sections kind of all stacked. Okay. What we want to do is this second section, we want it to be smaller, and we want the other second section after it to kind of sit next to it and be a little bit bigger. So let's go ahead, and if we want all the sections to sit next to each other, chat, what do we have to do to all the sections? Right now, if we want them all to sit next to each other, chat, what do we have to do? Luca Mo came in first with it. Yeah, we want to make sure they're all floating left. Cool. Floating left. And then let's come down here and give class mid a new percentage. Let's do width. Let's do something like, I don't know, 30%. And then let's go ahead and get the section after it. So we can do mid plus section. So that'll be the sibling after mid. So the section after mid. Let's go ahead and give that a width of 70%. Cool. So they should all be floating. Mid should be 30. Width should be 70. And let's go ahead and refresh. There we go. First try. There we go. There we go. Pickles. Dominoes. And so here we can, somebody said, well, what if we couldn't use mid? We could have done section plus section. So instead of mid being here, we could do section plus section. And then instead of mid being here, we could do section plus section plus section. And all of them would be the same. Yeah. Do we need to float the top section? Not necessarily. It's just easier to keep our code dry and not have to have them on multiple places. So if we didn't put float left on this section, we'd had to put it here and here. So that would have been 2 times instead of 1 line. So yeah, that's why. Just to keep our code a little bit drier. My vomit code was not dry. That's good. You're here to vomit, right? That's how you did it, Pork? That's awesome. I need some pizza now. Nice. We're going to get that Domino's sponsorship one of these days. All right, let's keep going, folks. Layout 3, interesting. So let's go ahead and do layout 3 together, and then we'll kind of be at our 2-hour mark, and we'll take another break. So let's do layout 3, and then we'll take a break. Let me close these two. I am going to go ahead and duplicate this and call it layout 3. Cool. Let's go ahead and open up layout 3 and the CSS. We have section, section, section. If we look, chat, kind of the same layout that we just did, so we don't need to go through it again. Header, footer. We don't have enough context to make semantically appropriate decisions here, right? We don't know the semantic context here. So we're just going to say section, section, section for now. And we'll say that these 3 sections are all the same. And this is the big boy that's different. Right? This is the big boy that's different. 195 in Atom, if you just right click on a folder, you get this like duplicate option. And so that's what I'm using to duplicate really quick. If you don't have the duplicate, or if you're in a text editor that doesn't have it, you can just copy and paste your folder and then rename it. All right, Dak, I'll use your class. So it's actually the same class, right? Like it's the same one. It's this one, second one, 1, 2, 3. So we just need to have a third section here, right? I mean, a 4th section. So there's 4 sections instead of 3. And that second one has a class, and somebody wanted to call it Too Thick. There we go. Or there we go. Too Thick. Cool. So let's go ahead and save that. Now we have a section, a section, a section, a section, and this one's too thick. Let's go to our CSS. So let's see. We can maybe make the sections by default 20%. All right, let's get rid of these. So if our sections by default are 20%, right? If our sections by default are 20%, 20 plus 20 plus 20 would give us 60. And that would leave us with 40% left over. So too thick would have to be 40% for this to equal 100. Quick maths. Cool. So all the sections right now are floated to the left, and they're 20%, which means in the cascade, we can override too thick, and we can make that have a width of 40%. Let's save it. Let's go back. Oop, I got to open it. Open in the browser. There we go. We got left, too thick, second from the right, and the furthest. It's a pretty good layout. It's pretty close. We just have to fix the heights, all right? Let's go ahead and make the heights a little bit better. Let's make the height 400 pixels. And then, you know what? I'm not super happy with the, I like the percentages here. It looks pretty close. These might be a little bit smaller, maybe like 15s, right? Like 15, 15, 15. So that we could mess with it. We could fix it a little bit, or actually might be a little bit bigger, but I'm happy with that. If you wanted to fiddle with it, 2 ways you could fiddle, right? 2 ways you could fiddle is you could right click inspect and go over here and play with too thick's percentage. So in here, I could make it bigger or smaller until I was happy. So I'm just messing, if you can't see it, because it's a little small, I'm messing with this percentage of too thick over here. And once you click on it, you can hold down the upper right arrow, right? And play with it in real time. And then once you find that sweet spot, boom, you can say, all right, I love 28%. You can go and carry that over to your text editor. So a lot of times what I do is I get it close enough, right? A lot of times what I do professionally is I get it close enough, and then I come in the inspector and I play with it until it's exactly like my design. And then once I have that number, let's say it's 35%, I would come back and do 35% inside of my CSS. So remember, we're here to vomit our code and then we'll clean it up later. And one of the ways we can clean it up is to go into those inspect tools and play around with it there. That's why I tell you all to use Chrome or Firefox, because the dev tools are just really great. And we're going to see a lot of these little hacks over time. Cool. Somebody said, what's the best way to practice this? I'm going to give you some push work on Thursday. On push work, I'm going to give you some websites I want you to replicate. And so it's just practice building. You don't need me to give you layouts. You don't need me to tell you, like, try this layout. Find a website you use a lot, try and build it. That's the best way to get practice. I'm going to give you some push work on Thursday. That's a couple layouts, 5 different layouts that you'll have solutions for. And so I'm going to ask you to push yourself and build all 5 of those layouts. So on Thursday, you'll get those. Cool. It is top of the hour again. We're going to come back and talk about responsive websites. But before we do that, let's take a break. Man, we're having fun tonight. I feel like we just took a break. I feel like we just took a break a few seconds ago. Posture check. Thank you, Jackie. Let me make sure I'm sitting right here so my butt doesn't hurt. Get my shoulders back. Looking good. All right. 5 minutes on the clock, folks. Please get up. Take care of yourself. Hydrate. Do what you got to do. Go give your dog a belly scratch for me. And I'll see you back here in 4 minutes and 50 seconds. Could you show the Chrome trick again? Sure. It's just right click, inspect. And then once you're in the inspector, you can click on anything and the CSS shows up here on the right hand side, and you can play with any of the numbers that you want. Yeah. There are keyboard shortcuts. It depends on what operating system and what browser you're using. But yeah, I just like right click inspect. The reason I also like right click inspect is because it takes you to exactly where that piece of content is. So right click inspect on websites takes me to that H2, and then I can come over here and just mess with the H2. So if you just do the keyboard shortcut, it doesn't open to where exactly you want it. Coordinate, hey, thank you for the hydration. Cheers to you. Okay, gonna give the dog a belly scratch. Nice. 4 minutes, folks. Please get up. If you haven't, get up. Go. You. Yes, you. Still, you right there, browsing Reddit. Stop browsing Reddit. Get up. Go do a squat. Go get some water. Standing desk gang. Yeah, my desk is actually a standing desk. I'm afraid to do it on stream. Oh, let's see, hold on. You wouldn't know. I could just pretend that I'm like going up or going down, but my desk is a standing desk. Aw, Jimmy. What's your daughter's name? I'll say hi back next time. Hi, Jimmy's daughter. Yeah, Bitcoin's popping off today. Well, off this week. Only on 6.9, Jesus. Simona. Hey, Simona. Hope you're doing well. I think at this point, some brown boy, it needs to be like a channel goal. Like, right, just stop stream and go make popcorn with jalapenos. My air popper broke. Like we went to make popcorn and it broke. So now I need to get a new air popper. I have popcorn kernels. I guess I could do like on the stove. I've done that in the past, but my air popper broke. So I was trying to, and then it just didn't work. Chris said, Leon, a few days ago, I totally sent you a connection on LinkedIn with no message. I don't see a way to cancel it. Should we get LinkedIn Premium? Only get Premium if it's free. And I think they give it to you free for like the first couple of weeks. So you're better off saving your LinkedIn Premium until you're ready to start the application process. So I wouldn't like waste your free like month or whatever they give you without having to pay until you're like serious about the job hunt. Yeah, I mean, if you already use it, it's okay, but you're probably better off once the job search starts. Jill said, will you create a complete website design? Yes, we will do that. Part of your stretch on Thursday, I will be to complete a real website in total. Root Beer said, can we connect with you on LinkedIn? Yes, after you graduate. I typically don't ever add any of my students until I know you like well or you've graduated. Kev. There are plenty of sites where you can stream movies, and streaming movies is not illegal. Only downloading them is. All right, folks, come on back. Hopefully you got some water. Hopefully you stretched. Hopefully you hydrated. All right. Hopefully you did some belly scratches. All right. Chris, if you didn't use this is a really interesting question. So I advocate for a couple social medias that I think make your job search a little bit easier. LinkedIn, Twitter, and AngelList. The interesting thing about Twitter is for a lot of folks, like the number one result that'll show up for like your name in search engines will often be Twitter. Also, people can add your Twitter via phone numbers. So if they have your phone number, they can often find your Twitter. So I've had some students in the past where their employers found their Twitter because they gave their phone number to their employer. And then they found like their Twitter that they didn't want them to find. So be careful with Twitter just because it ranks really high. And I'm a big fan of having a professional Twitter. Twitter is how I talk to a lot of developers that I just wouldn't ever get the chance to talk to, right? And so Twitter for me is like a fabulous tool to reach out to people, connect with people. And so I highly recommend it. We're going to talk a little bit about on Thursday on how to set up these professional accounts. But that's one of the things I definitely recommend. So if you've been using Twitter in a non-professional context, you might want a different one to help you out. Yeah. Burner phone, got it. Yeah, Twitter is really just like where a lot of developers hang out, and it's really easy to connect with developers on Twitter. So I find it's been one of my favorite tools for like connecting with folks. I don't really use Facebook or Instagram or any of those other social medias. Yeah. Cool. Let's talk about responsive websites. We took a little bit of peek at responsive websites last class. Trying to get me in trouble, Sponge. We talked a little bit about responsive websites. It's this idea that we want our websites to look great across devices. We want them to look good on our desktops, our laptops, our mobile phones, right? And something really important changed about the web, and that was the mobile explosion, where folks were consuming more and more of the web on their mobile devices, and the old internet just wasn't ready for it. And so we had to introduce this idea of responsiveness so that our sites look great across desktop, laptop, mobile, as whatever you would like to open up your website on. Kind of in the beginning, we had something called fixed websites, where no matter what you did, they kind of just stayed where they were. And so my favorite is UPS's website that up until 2017 looked like this. I opened it last class, but I think it's funny enough to kind of show it again. Way back, it takes a little bit of time. But the idea is a fixed width website. Like if we look here while this is loading, notice all this white space we have over here as it loads, right? It didn't matter. It didn't matter if your screen was this size or this size or that size. It was fixed. And look at this. April 29, 2017. Like this is what their website looked like in 2017. Are you kidding me? So this is a fixed width website. But nowadays, we have some really awesome websites that are responsive. So let me show you a responsive website. So here's Boston.com. Boston.com's website used to be horrible, like absolute dumpster fire, like a really bad website. But then mobile explosion started happening. They wanted folks to be able to consume their content on their phone. They said, hey, a lot of our users are consuming our content during their commute, right? They're getting their news on the commute. And so our website does not look good on mobile. And since it doesn't look good on mobile, they can't use our site, right? And so they invested in building out this beautiful website. And it's beautiful because as the screen size changes, look at it. Oh, beautiful. All right. They not only make things fit the screen better, it responds to the size of the screen, but they make excellent content decisions. Like they're like, hey, if you're on tablet, I don't need this column, right? Like they have like this most popular ticket giveaway, but if you're on mobile, we don't need that. If you're on like tablet, you don't need that. And then if we're on mobile, we don't need this other side column. Let's get rid of that. Right. And there you go. So like on mobile, it's just the heavy hitters. It's just the important content. And look, even on mobile, they said, you know what? On mobile, this is probably what most people care about in Boston. I lived in Boston for about 10 years. These are the only things I cared about. Did I have to truck through 5 feet of snow? Would there be a parade for the Patriots because they won again? And what was the news, right? Like they knew like that's what folks want on mobile, right? Right. That's what they wanted. That's what people want when they're on their phones. And so they made excellent content decisions. The site was responsive. It looked good on the device, but they made wonderful content decisions that got the folks what they needed, right? And that's the beauty of it. Now, the really funny thing is, I don't know if this is still true, but back when I was teaching in an actual classroom, I had a huge projector. And so I was able to open up the website on the projector. And I noticed once I got to like the 49-inch screen size, they had ads again. Like they had ads like all the way out on a huge monitor. And so they were like, hey, I guess if you have a big ass monitor, you probably have some money. So let's show you some ads on your big ass monitor. So I just thought that was pretty funny. I don't know if they're still there, but they used to be. Cool. So that's the difference between a responsive website. It's looking good across devices plus really good content decisions. And it stands in the face of this old school of like fixed width websites. I've been around long enough that I remember making fixed width websites. I remember when I was building one of my first, like the first nonprofit I built was like a reverse Craigslist where you could post for the things that you needed and folks in your community could like volunteer to give you those things. And I remember building it using a framework that was like 960 grid or something like that. It was like 960 grid. The whole point of it was this idea that your entire site should be 960 pixels and that's it. It was like a whole CSS framework. It was like a whole Photoshop framework. And it's this idea that your site should be 960 pixels and that's it. Because there's no other devices that we had to really worry about, right? And so I remember making and using tools to make fixed width websites back in the day. But now you can never do that. Folks are consuming the web mostly through their mobile phones, also increasingly through apps and not the browser, which is an interesting thing to keep an eye on. But this idea is that if we want people to consume our content, it has to look good across all devices. Now, what makes a website responsive? You keep hearing me say a few really important words here. The idea is that for a site to be responsive, it should probably have these like three important things. The site should be fluid, it should be elastic, and you should be able to make good content decisions. So what does that mean? A site that's fluid has everything sized in percentages or using flexible containers. So for now, we haven't covered Flexbox. Let's just talk about flexible containers. The idea here is that this layout, if I sized everything in percentages, like if I go ahead and I made this 50%, and then 33.333% repeating, of course, we would have a site that if it was on mobile and was really squished, it would look a little too jumbled, but it would look okay. As the site got bigger or smaller, it still kind of look okay, right? And so let's look at one of our layouts today. So here's our layout from today. It's fluid, meaning that the widths are sized in percentages. So here's what it looks like on desktop. Here's what it looks like on tablet. Here's what it looks like on mobile, right? It looks pretty good across the entire site. That's a fluid site. That means eventually we're going to get to the point where we're using media queries to make decisions. But as long as our site is fluid in between, it doesn't really matter as much when those decisions happen. It's going to look somewhat good across all the devices. That's fluidity. So that's one of the cornerstones of building a site that's responsive. The next thing we're going to worry about is elasticity. Elasticity is sizing things like fonts in ems or rems. Now, ems and rems are really confusing when you first see them. And so if you did the reading and it wasn't really clicking, that's okay. All an em and a rem is a responsive unit of measure. That means it's responding to something. Let's say you decided to build a website that had 3,000 lines of CSS, right? 3,000 lines of CSS. It's a lot of code. And in those 3,000 lines of CSS, you did font sizes in pixels, right? So you have pixels all over the place. And you finish the assignment and you go to your boss or you go to your client and they say, "Hey, Leon, I love everything that you've done, except the text is a little bit too small. Can you double all of the font sizes for me?" Oh boy. Now you got to go back through 3,000 lines of CSS and change every font size from pixels, right, to double those pixels. And so you not only have to go through and find them all, like hopefully you're using like control find and jumping, but then you also have to do the math, like, all right, 12 to 24, 8 to 16, right? And so that's a task. If you had sized stuff in rems, you would have had to make one change. So here you're going to see something of a font size of 10 pixels. Let's say every bit of content I have is inside that section. An M is going to pull its base font size from that section. So all my paragraphs, everything is inside that section. In M, what it's going to do is it's going to look at its parent's font size and use that as its base. So if my paragraph was inside that section and I wanted to double it from 10 pixels to 20 pixels, I just changed this one line of code. I changed that from 10 to 20, and every single thing in my CSS that uses M's is now double the size. So if in my 3,000 lines of CSS, I used M's everywhere, I would have to make one change and all of my font sizes would double. That's all. The M just looks at the parent's font size. So in this case, if my parent was the section and that section had a font size of 10 pixels, then 1M is quick maths 10 pixels. 2 M's would be 20 pixels, 3 M's would be 30 pixels, and so on. All right. And so the idea here is that I could easily change all of the sizes on my site by making one change. Izzy with the posture check. Thank you. Now, in this case, the 1M is 10 pixels because the parent's font size is 10 pixels. If the parent's font size was 20, what did I just do? What the heck? I don't even know what I just did here. What the heck? I don't even know what that was. All right, there we go. Cool. If the parent's font size was 20 pixels, right, then 1M would no longer be 10. It would be 20 pixels, right? So the idea here is that we can have all of our font sizes respond by one change. Denny, thank you for the hydration. Cheers to you. Thank you. Cool. So that's really important. It's really important because it can save you a lot of time. One of the problems that came up a lot, though, is that the font size is pulled from the parent's font size. So that means if you're working on a team and you have 3,000 lines of CSS, if somebody comes anywhere inside that CSS and puts a font size on another container, your M's are now pulling their base font size from that container. So if somebody went and put, like, your paragraph is inside of an article and they put a font size on that article, well, now your M is no longer pulling from this section. It could be pulling from that article. Ooh, good eye. I am missing a semicolon. Right? So the idea here is that the M's can get messy. And they can get messy because if somebody else comes along and changes the parent's font size, well, your M is going to use that to determine its size. So that just kind of like, that just messes with your mind. It's hard to like keep track of because you're kind of trusting other people on your team to not mess it up. But rems came in and saved the day. What a rem is, right? This rem here is called a root M. And what a root M does is it doesn't pull its font size from the parent's container. It pulls its base font size always from the HTML element. So if you use rems, all you have to do is put a base font size, just put a font size on your HTML element, and then rems will always be a unit responsive to that HTML element, right? So if we made this really easy, instead of using this percentage, we just did 10 pixels, right? If we just did 10 pixels, then one rem would be 10 pixels. 2 rems would be 20 pixels. 3 rems would be 30 pixels. And so a lot of developers will just do that. They'll go into their CSS, they'll put 10 pixels on the HTML element and call it a day. Because then they can use rems anywhere in their CSS, and they know that it's going to be responsive to that HTML element. And if they ever want to double it, all they have to do is double it from 10 to 20 pixels. All right? Now, the reason why we do this is not to only make ourselves and our lives easier as developers. The really big reason why we might do this is because of accessibility. Right? The reason why we're going to do this is because of accessibility. Somebody that has a visual impairment will set the default font size for their browser to the size of their choosing. Right? So if I have a visual impairment and I need everything to be bigger, instead of every website I go to having to like magnify stuff, right? Imagine going to every website and having to magnify stuff if you have a visual impairment. What you can do is actually set a font size for your entire browser. And then every single site you go to will be magnified. Well, the cool thing is if you're using rems and ems, you can pull, right? You can pull from that default font size, and all your rems will be styled accordingly, right? So the idea here is if I set, and this is where this fancy number comes in. This fancy number takes whatever the user enters as their default font size, that number just works with it, right? So if they set their default font size to like the standard 16 pixels, this works. So no matter what a user sets their font size to, this will work with that number to make sure that all of our rems are magnified accordingly. So this is kind of like the magic number. A lot of developers will just come, throw that on the HTML element, and then use rems, right? Then no matter what font size somebody using accessibility device uses, all of their fonts and stuff will size accordingly. If you use pixel values, you're going to override the font sizing that they need. Like if you just hard code 10 pixels or you just hard code 20 pixels, well, then their magnification gets thrown off, right? Their magnification gets thrown off. So I don't use ems. I use rems to save myself a little bit of sanity. And what I normally do is I come in, I put this on my HTML element, and then I use rems everywhere. And I can just use rems as my base. I can think of rems as like a base of like 10 pixels, let's say, right? I can think of rem as a base of 10 pixels. So 2 rems is 20 pixels, 3 rems is 30 pixels. So I get ease of mind for developing, and it works great for accessibility. The 62.5% comes from a base styling of 16 pixels, right? Which is like the base like default that most browsers start off with. So if you're starting off with 16 pixels and you want the math to be easier, you're going to do 62.5% of 16, which gives you 10. It's math. And so then I can just think of one rem as 10 pixels. That's all. So it makes the math really easy for me. 10 pixels is one rem. And then I still get all the accessibility perks. That's all it does. So I know this is like a really confusing topic. I'm going to share some additional reading on this. But the idea is that rems make your life easier as a developer because you don't have to like make massive changes throughout your entire file. You can just change one thing to have changes happen. And then for accessibility, it makes it so that folks need to magnify their site. They get a really good experience when they use your site because everything responds to their default font size. Metagon, you get a rem and you get a rem. Yeah. Imran, yes, it would apply because this is our style sheet, and our style sheet overrides either reset or normalize. Should we start using rem now instead of pix and ems? Yes, I would encourage you to start using rems. It's math, and that's why I'm out. This is like the only math we have in CSS. We have this math and we have percentage math. That's it. As Billy said, is this for everything or just fonts? Some people use rems everywhere. That's going to be a personal decision between percentages and rems, but we're going to move into other layout systems where we won't even use numbers. Cool. All right. We'll review this again on Thursday because I know this is a tricky concept. So let's pretend that this was our first run to get the idea percolating, and on Thursday we'll drive it home. All right. The other big piece of responsiveness that we said was not only a fluid and elastic underpinning, but it was content decisions, right? It was content decisions. If we look here on this screen size, we have the actual list, and then on this screen size, we don't. We've made a content decision. We said, hey, once we get to mobile, we don't need this list, right? We don't need this column, right? 5/4 of people can't do fractions. It's just an improper fraction, right? It's still fractions. The idea being here that when you're thinking through responsiveness, it's not enough just to shrink stuff. We have to make content decisions, right? Baka, can we do partial rems? Absolutely, you can do partial rems. Cool. All right, so how do we make content decisions? Like, how do we decide how to show stuff and not show stuff? I don't mean like what you hide and show, but like how you hide and show stuff. And the way that we can hide and show stuff is through media queries. With our media queries, we can say, hey, at this screen size, these rules apply. Okay, so here is a very simple media query. What this is saying is between, whenever you see screen, that's the same as saying 0. So what we're saying here is between 0 and a max width of 600 pixels, I want my H1s to be blue. Okay, so this H1 rule, right? This H1 rule will only apply when the screen is between 0 and 600 pixels. So when my screen is at 600 pixels or less, this applies. If my screen is larger than 600 pixels, it's as though this rule does not exist. Okay, this rule might not even be a thing. Now, the really tricky thing about media queries is they don't have any more specificity just because they're a media query. This is where a lot of people get thrown off. Just because they're in a media query, they don't get any extra specificity. So if you have something in a media query that you want to override something in the cascade, it has to have the same or greater specificity, even though it is inside of a media query. So the same or more. Cool. Let's go to media query, folks. Whoop. So I'm going to go ahead and let's take a look at layout 3. So let me go ahead and open it in the browser again. What I want is, once we get to like tablet, let's just say 900 pixels for a large tablet and landscape. Once we get to 900 pixels, I want it to be blue. And once I get to 600 pixels, not this again. Come on, Leon, we practiced this. Pull it together. You got this. 400 people are watching. Okay. When we get to 400 pixels, right? When we get to 400 pixels, I want it to be green. So let's say 600. So let's say 900 pixels were blue, 600 pixels were green. Let's start with that. I did it, y'all. I did it. Jeff Bezos is going to be proud. All right, so let's go down here and do a media query. At media, screen, and we're going to do max hyphen width 600 pixels. Cool. Curly braces open and close. Did I miss two hydrates? Duck F and Mayu. Mayu and Duck F, thanks for the hydration. Cheers to you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and make all of our sections background blue. And then I want to do another media query. And this is just so we can see it. We might do our media queries a little bit different in the future. At media, let's do max hyphen width. Oh, sorry, min width. Let's do 601. And let's do a max width. Let's do 900 pixels. And then I'm going to do the section again. But this time, the background is going to be... Oh, this is the one I wanted blue, and I wanted the other one green. Sorry, there we go. Blue. And this one I want green. All right. It's not easy being green. All right, here we go. So what I've just said here is I want between 0 and 600 pixels for the section to be green. Okay? Then between 601 pixels and 900, I want it to be blue. Now I'm going to nest my media queries a little bit differently in production. This is just so we can actually like see it for the first time. Okay. And yes, max width and min width can be rems. Oh, we'll build up to that next week. But yes, just so we can see it and understand it, we won't use rems. We'll use pixels, and it'll be a little bit different in production. But we're saying between 0 and 600, make the sections green, and between 601 and 900, make them blue. Let me go ahead and save. Let me go back and refresh. And now we're going to stretch the window here. Stretch. Well, shrink. Blue at 900 pixels. And then once I get to 600, green. So at 600, it's green. 900, it's blue. And outside, none of them apply. So once I get past 900, none of these rules apply. Now, the interesting thing is, you know what? On mobile, on tablet, I want too thick to go. I can't have too thick on my tablet, right? I want too thick to go on tablet. Apiri, I don't need screen on the second one because screen is just the same thing as saying 0. So I'm not worried about 0 in the second one. So on tablet, I want too thick to go. So let's do too thick. And we're going to do display none. So what's going to happen is when I hit tablet, too thick's got to go. And let's give too thick a color. Let's make too thick like purple. Just so we can see it. All right. So now what's going to happen is once we hit tablet, too thick's going to go. So let's go ahead and shrink. 900, they all go blue. Too thick is gone. And when we get to 600, too thick comes back. Right? Because remember, we only put the display none on this media query. Right? And so it's not on this media query. That's why too thick is not. That's why too thick comes back once we hit 600. We only removed it between 600 and 900. We didn't remove it between 0 and 600. Right? Also, I think if we got rid of too thick, that's 40% we're getting back. So we should make the sections a width of 33.333%, repeating, of course, on tablet so that they stretch out. All right, so if I refresh, once I get to 900, our 3 sections become full width. Too thick is gone. We Leroy Jenkins'd it. And then once I get to mobile, rip, it kind of comes back. So we're starting to see an interesting pattern here. And it's that we have total control over it in the media queries. But it would really suck to kind of have to like be thinking about it like this, where we like think about it from desktop and then go to mobile. And we have to like constantly like be carrying over all of our changes and stuff like that happens. And so there is a method of thinking about how you lay out websites. And this method is called mobile first, where you think about the mobile version of your site that includes all the premium content, right? Like all the good stuff, like everything that you're going to need, and it looks great. And then you can make sure your site's fluid and extend it to tablet, extend it to desktop, extend it to whatever size you need, right? And so you start with mobile first because that's where all the goodies are going to be. And then you just add as you get bigger, right? So it makes it easier where you're not constantly like having to like copy all these changes and put them into the mobile or figuring out how to like nest it correctly. So a lot of people will start with mobile first. And that was a really big movement in how we laid out websites and how we did this, right? So mobile first became a big deal. If you did the readings, you would have read about mobile first. There's a new wave of folks that are starting to think about it a little bit differently as well, where you still have your designs that are mobile first, like the designer has given you a design for mobile, a design for tablet, and a design for like laptop, desktop. And then what you do is you open up that design on desktop and you do boom, 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 boom. All right, that looks bad. Let me write a media query. Then boom, boom, and then you shrink it a little bit more. Boom, boom, boom. That looks bad. Let me write a media query. It looks bad. Let me write a media query. So there's kind of 2 ways of going about building responsive websites. You can go mobile first and go out from small to largest, or you can go from largest to smallest. And it's kind of personal preference. If I am doing it myself and I don't have a designer, I typically will start mobile first and build out. If I am working with a designer and they've given me good designs for desktop, laptop, tablet, and mobile, I'm going to start with the desktop layout, shrink it until it looks bad, make my media query, make my content decisions, shrink it, shrink it, shrink it. So there's kind of 2 ways to go about it, and it really is a big personal preference. And I'm going to ask you to try it both ways with the work that I assign on Thursday. So on Thursday, I'm going to have you building some layouts. And I want you to try doing it mobile first. And I want you to try it desktop to mobile. Okay. So we're going to have 2 different ways of going about it. Once again, I wanted to kind of show you these concepts, see it at play. But really, what we want are 3 things. We want a fluid site. Hadoken, I see you. We want 3 things. We want a fluid underpinning, meaning that everything's in percentages, right? So no matter where we're at before a media query takes effect or not, it kind of looks okay. 2, we want things elastic, meaning that our font sizes at least are in rems. And then we want to make content decisions. At different screen sizes, we might get rid of stuff. We might change the widths of things. We might make the site look better at that size. Okay? So that's what we're talking about. We're running out of a little bit of time tonight, so that's why I didn't bake it into tonight's class, because we're going to hit that three-hour mark in just 10 minutes. So we're going to come back on Thursday and do more of this, where we're going to play with these layouts. We're going to see media queries in better effect, and then I'm going to assign homework then. Not today. Not today. I'm going to assign homework on Thursday. Okay. All right. There's one or two more big things that I want to cover. And then we will kind of wrap it up for tonight and do a raid and kind of go on. So let's go ahead and talk about something very important to add to our layout. So to our templates. Yeah. So we're going to talk about this really important thing to add to our templates. It's not there yet, but we should add it today. It's called the meta viewport. And what it does is one really important thing. It says that our viewport should be taken from the device, meaning typically the viewport is like what the browser has access to. Like, the size of the screen, basically. That's your viewport. And so this says, get the viewport. Oh my gosh. Imran said, what version of Independence Day? Mods, can you give Imran a timeout, please? No, I'm joking. Please don't give him a timeout. There's only one version of Independence Day. Shame. Everyone in chat, shame. I need to see shame in chat, please. Shame. 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 There's only one version of Independence Day. Shame. Thank you. No ban, but you get shamed publicly. He just leaves. All right. Well, that's enough shaming for today. Thank you. All right. So the meta viewport, very important. The meta viewport, what it does is it says the width is the size of the device. And this is really important because our devices are going to be wild. We're going to have mobile phones, tablets, desktops. So it just sets the width to be whatever the viewport is. There's actually a funny quirk. These media queries out the gate don't actually work on mobile phones. The media queries that you see out the gate only work when you're resizing your browser, like on your desktop. So it's funny, like we add these media queries to help with responsiveness across devices, but they really, most of the time, don't work out the box until you put this in your head. Okay? There's one other really important thing that's here that we are all going to, we're all going to raise our right hand. We're going to do another swearing today. Everyone raise your hand, please. Right hand in the air. I can see you. Yes, raise your hand. Come on. That's your left hand. Use your right hand. All right. Right hand is up. I promise, you can repeat after me. I promise to never set initial scale to no. I promise to never set initial scale to no. All right. So this, thank you for your pledge this evening. This right here is initial scale. What it does is it controls whether you have the ability to pinch and zoom. So some developers build these beautiful experiences, and it's so beautiful that they don't want somebody to like stretch it out or make it smaller, make it bigger. And so they'll set it to no. What that does is it stops the individual, N-O, yeah, no. It stops the individual from being able to pinch and zoom. Why would we want the user to be able to pinch and zoom, chat? Why is that important? Why is it important to maintain the ability to pinch and zoom? Yes, it's accessibility, right? The idea being that we want to be able to have the ability to pinch and zoom, because if somebody has an accessibility concern where they might need to like have a visual impairment and they need to make stuff bigger, if you set this to no, they can't actually do that. And I used to give homework. Like, it's 1 in 10 folks on the internet have an accessibility concern or use an accessibility device. Like 1 in 10 folks on the internet. I used to ask my students on the T to just look around, and you'll see people using pinch to zoom every single time. If you just pay attention and you're on public transport, you'll see it every single time. there are so many people that use this feature that if you set it to no, you're just screwing them out of being able to use your website, right? So it's important to never set this to no. But we need this meta viewport. We're going to take it to our template. So everyone, either now or after class, you take this meta viewport, you go to your template, and you put it in the head. So if you have any other templates or things that you haven't done before, it goes in the head. Okay. And that makes it so that your sites are using the device width of the actual device and that people can pinch and zoom. All right. So your very short homework tonight is to make this site responsive, but I want it responsive across 3 media queries. All right. I want it responsive across 3 media queries. I want something to happen at a larger size. I want something to happen at a tablet size. And I want something to happen on mobile. All right. So that's 3 unique media queries. Okay. So that's your homework for Thursday. This is one of the things that I want to do for homework. Right. Yeah. It can be an edit of your earlier assignment. That's okay. If you want to take the one that you did before and just add to it, totally cool. I want this to be done with 3 media queries. Cool. Then let's talk about Flexbox. We got about 4 minutes until 3 hour mark, and then we'll end. Now, so far we've seen Float, which I personally enjoy. I think it's a great layout system. You're going to run into it a lot during older code bases, or a lot of examples you see on the internet are still going to use Float. But there are some newer systems that we can use. Flexbox and CSS Grid are new, right? Oh no, 4 sharks. Hope they're doing all right. We have some newer ways of doing layout, and one of them is Flexbox. So I just want to show you the magic of Flexbox real quick, just so we can see it in action, and then we're actually going to start using Flexbox next week. For a long time, we used floats. Before that, we had inline. Before that, we had tables. And the reason why folks really never liked floats is because there's a lot of quirks. You got to learn math. You got to know all these little gotchas. But Flexbox is really neat because it helps you lay out stuff in one dimension. Either it helps you lay out stuff in a row, or it helps you lay out stuff in a column. And you just have to learn a few keywords. And then if you learn those keywords, it just does everything automatically for you, right? So if you want to have things equally spaced, you can just say like space between. If you want stuff all in the center, you can just say center. If you want everything to have an equal amount of space around, you just say space around. You don't actually have to sit here and calculate all the percentages like big brain 300 IQ level plays. You can just say, all right, I want space around, and it will just do it for you. You don't need to calculate percentages. You don't need to calculate widths. It just does it all for you. And so this image comes from my favorite reading on Flexbox. It's CSS Tricks Complete Guide to Flexbox. I highly recommend everyone read the Complete Guide to Flexbox before attempting the homework that's due Thursday. The homework that's due Thursday is to do Flexbox Froggy. And so I want you all to read the Complete Guide to Flexbox and then do Flexbox Froggy. Let me show you really quickly why Flexbox is such amazing magic, okay? I'm going to show it to you real quick, and then we're going to break for tonight after a raid. So I'm going to close these real quick, and I'm going to go real fast, and we're going to have plenty of time to do Flexbox in the next classes. But here we go. If we look inside of my HTML, I have 3 sections inside of a main and 2 sections in a bottom. The really cool thing is that Flexbox likes to be put on containing elements. And so as long as I make the containing elements have a property of flex, all the stuff inside of them will do all the sizing automatically for me. So what I'm going to do is I have my sections and my sections, and I have my header and my footer. So I'm going to go to my style real quick. There's nothing new here. It's still our box model hack. I'm just going to come down to layout. I'm going to do my header and footer, just like we've been doing all along. And I'm just going to go ahead and give them a height, 100 pixels. And I'm going to give them a border so we can see them. Border, 1 pixel, solid black, right? That's it. Header and footer. I don't need to do clear or any of that weird stuff. Thank you, funny commentary. I still had that weird like Moz up here. Let's get rid of that. Don't need to do anything funny. Just did height and border, no clear or any funny stuff like that. I'm going to give all my sections the same styling. Let's make them height 200 pixels, and let's give them a border too so we can see them. Border 1 pixel, solid black. Cool. And then let's just see where we're at. Let's save this real quick. We just have header, footer, and sections. If we open this in the browser, it looks normal. Everything's stacked. There's no layout, right? We got our header, our sections, and our footer. It's all stacked. You already see some magic. Chat, you already see some magic. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my 2 containing elements. My containing elements are main and bottom. All I'm going to do on main and bottom is display flex. So now my containers are flex containers, right? That's all I did. I just said the containers, like main and bottom. If we look at our HTML, main is the container and class of bottom is the container. So both my containers have the display of flex. And then I'm just going to say, hey, every section just count as one element. Like just take up the space of one thing. That's it. My containers are flexible and each thing just take up one space. If I come back and I refresh, oh baby, magic. No percentages, no math. It just did it all for us. Perfectly sized 3 boxes in that main, perfectly sized 50-50 boxes inside of that bottom. And that was it. I did two lines that were new. Display flex on the containers and have everything take up one space. And boom, we're done. No more fiddling with whiffs and percentages and doing math and keeping track of everything. It just works. No floats, no anything weird. So that's what we have to look forward to. We have to look forward to Flexbox changing the game, making things a lot easier, and it is responsive to boot. Look at that. Fluid out the box. I did just flex on y'all. There we go. Cool. So that's why everybody loves Flexbox. It's super easy. Once you learn some of those magical words, you can do whatever you want with it. So the homework this evening is to read Flexbox. To make this responsive with 3 media queries, to read the complete guide to Flexbox, and then to do Flexbox Froggy. I want you to try and get all of this done before Thursday's class. I know it's a little bit of reading. It's a little bit of doing. Try your hardest to get this done by Thursday's class. And then I need you to watch Independence Day over the weekend. If you have some time to squeeze it in before Thursday's class, great. But I need you to get it done by next week. Independence Day, the original movie. There is no other one. For the original layout and for all the layouts that are due, still use floats. We have not learned Flexbox together yet, so please still use floats for the layouts. We will get to Flexbox later on. All right. Whew. This is a doozy, folks. There's a lot here. I know there's a lot of rough stuff here. So once again, as always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for giving me a lot of hard work at the end of your day or at the beginning of the day where you're coming from. We got a lot of stuff that we're going to work on over the next couple of weeks. We're going to start working on our networking. We're going to start working on making our sites look really great, start building real world sites. Slowly, we're going to ease into JavaScript already, right? So once again, thank you for being here. Everyone that subbed, I appreciate you immensely. You're helping change people's lives by donating to RC. We've paid for one student's whole stipend. I appreciate you. Everybody that helped spend Jeff Bezos' money by doing the Twitch Prime, I appreciate you all. Good night. Let's do a raid together. I'll see you over at the raid. Remember, if you raid, you get extra channel points. So I'm going to set up the raid right now. And we're going to go send some love, some positivity to somebody else. All the solution code that we did today will go up on Discord immediately after class. So let's go ahead and do a raid. Give them a follow. Send them some love. Say hello. Tell them where you're coming from. And I will see you all on Thursday. So just go ahead and click raid now in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you over there.